approval of the agenda. I make a motion to approve the agenda, well, I want to move something. We do the approval agenda and then amend it? We're going to amend with approval.
Yeah, get a motion and a second, then amend it.
Second.
Thanks you guys for coming today. All right, so I'd like to move letter G, maintenance request 3, Otter Beach, into the Finance Committee recommendations 1. So I have it.
Oh,
There's a
second.
point of order here. Did you approve the consent agenda?
No.
We're not there yet.
And there's a mistake on the January 20th.
We'll
get there.
Okay,
Thank you.
I thought you passed that up. Sorry.
No, we're still on approval of today's agenda.
So is everyone okay with that amendment?
Yes.
So then we vote for the amendment. So do I have any objections?
No.
And then call for the question for the original motion.
Aye.
Any abstains?
Aye.
Thank you, Deborah. I have to remember you're on the phone.
Yes.
Okay, agenda passes?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so now we are on the consent agenda. So I make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. And then, so we're moving to discussion. Alexa, did you say you had comments on the consent agenda?
Oh, just that I believe the January 22nd meeting was a special meeting, not a regular board meeting.
And then, Emily, you said there were date,
Yes.
there were date
So-
issues?
Yep, the 22nd was a special and the 20th should have been 29th.
Did that help?
That,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
that was it.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, Madam Chair, I have a comment under the Violations Committee from January 9th.
Okay, go.
Okay, so it's just an FYI for the board, and you'll notice it in the minutes that the committee is now doing everything digitally. What we're doing is we have a brand new spreadsheet that was created by our compliance officer, and so that we do our meetings just all digitally, and our goal is to no longer have paper files, but all the violations will eventually be digital. We're starting now, like I said, actually we started our last meeting, and the old files that we're still working from, the goal is very soon to have our compliance officer scan those in. So basically you can search on that spreadsheet a member or a lot in division, and you look at the history that we have from the files that are in the cabinet behind you forward.
So does this have to do with the consent agenda?
Yes, it does. The January 9th minutes, you'll note there's a comment in there to the board. We're just saying, hey guys, this is what we're doing. Be aware
Okay.
that we're no longer keeping a paper trail, but instead it's all digital.
Okay, so it's just a no. Okay, well, perfect.
It's just an FYI, so you
Okay.
guys are aware of what we're doing.
Okay, I thought maybe you had a correction. Okay, well, great. That's
No,
really,
that was just, but it's in the minutes, so you might as well, just know it.
thank you. Are there any other comments on the consent agenda? And then there's a correction for the finance committee, the 27th. It says draft, they are approved. And so I sent the correction to Emily.
And then are you adding the January 13th?
I didn't know if we could because we can't vote on things that weren't added. Yeah, so we'll just do that next meeting. Okay, so I'll call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Deborah. Any abstained? Nays? Consent agenda passes. All right, so welcome and opening statements. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming, you guys. We haven't had any member guests in a while, so this is nice. Thank you for coming. Today, you're going to see kind of an adjusted agenda. We're probably going to table a lot of things. We had some directors that couldn't be here. We have a director that's on vacation. We had Deborah wasn't able to come, but she's able to get on the phone today to have a quorum. We had a director last minute say that they couldn't make it. So we're doing our best, so we're probably going to have a shortened meeting today because of that. So we're just going to focus on the important things. So that's why you'll notice that. All right. And then, so member agenda questions. Did anyone in the audience have a question? Yes, Doug.
Yeah, Doug Skelly. I'm Division 1 lots 15, 16, and 17. Where is Mitch?
Mitch is on vacation, which which in his original contract said that he would be out for this month. He always takes a vacation
I
in
thought
February.
Okay, excuse me. I thought it was standard board meeting protocol that the general manager would be here either on phone or physically here. I don't understand.
I believe in his contract it says that he will be available if necessary, but it wasn't necessary today, and we've had plenty of dialogue with him for any necessary agenda items, and
Okay,
we
that's-
have our
that's fine. We
accounting
don't need to
manager
dwell
here.
on it. I don't need to dwell on it. You guys have made the decision on that, so, okay, thank you.
Yes, Cookie?
I'm sorry, I might be in the wrong spot, but I wanted to give the book for the permits.
I would love to have the book of permits, Cookie. So everyone, this is Cookie Skelly, and she is chair of CPC, and she did this really wonderful thing, and found out.
She and her husband.
Thank you, Doug.
And then Kitzman took pictures, and Doug took pictures so they could go to the Fish
Perfect.
and Wildlife, but
So she brought in Fish and Wildlife to Clearwood and clarified what we can and what we do and do not need permits for, because there was a lot of confusion that we had to have the Army Corps come out and things like that. And things are gonna go a lot more smoothly now.
well,
because of
these
Cookie.
for those, but for all three lakes, so you have, which Deborah, I completed the task, Deborah. Just wanted her.
Wonderful.
She's the one who had me to start, but, so it's for the three lakes, and so it covers all the wooden bridge, and then the docks. The, easy docks do not require, a permit. So, and then all the recreational areas, and it's got the boat launches in there, so they could resurface and do everything, but you'll be reading them.
Mhm.
I would like to still see if we could find the rest of those to combine them with the book.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if you need to,
Can we make that an action item that we need to find the remaining permits for, what would we call them?
well, just the Fish and Wildlife permits.
It would be old HPA.
Yeah, that.
Old HPH.
And what you've got, the reason I'm speaking is because Cookie and I work together. I set the APPS program up. APPS is a program that the Washington State Fish and Wildlife provides clients for easy entry and maintenance of the JARPAs, which are the initial stages for putting a permit through. And what it does is it has the questions and that normally would be on a paper form, but that you enter in online. It's very efficient. It's there. It's been existing for 3 years. It's a way to make Fish and Wildlife and the assigned biologist, which in our case is Kelly Still, and they are able then to, what they have is when you enter the JARPA, then the second step is there's a couple of gentlemen that look at it to ensure that all the information has been entered. And then it goes to the biologist. The biologist then reviews the whole thing to make sure that all the information relating to the locations and descriptions and requirements that they're asking us to have. And then she then makes the assignment as to whether it or not it is accepted or rejected and put into an HPA, which is the final permit.
And they said that they would come out anytime that you
You have a
request,
question?
yeah.
I do have a question. So I know that we gave you the ability to do that. Does anyone else have the login information?
Yeah,
So
no,
it's
this,
all-
all
it's
that-
all in
yeah.
here, perfect.
The
Just so
way
in
I
case
set
you
it
have-
up, yeah, the way I set it up is there's no Eric currently is the contact person.
Okay, perfect.
The information relating how to get in is generic, so that regardless of who does it in the future,
Perfect.
can use that generic information for username and password. The other thing I wanted to
Madam
mention,
Chair, may
because
I ask a question?
Yes.
Sorry, I couldn't tell if you were still talking. Sorry if I did interrupt you, Doug, I apologize.
that's
I just
okay,
wanna
Deborah.
make sure that how to get into it is scanned or typed somehow on our
It is.
server.
It's in the book,
So we
Deborah.
always have the information and it gets labeled well, pocketed well, so we
Yeah.
can always find it and then be able to use it.
Deborah,
Yeah. No, it's
it's
okay.
in,
We'll
it's in the
find
book
it.
that, it's in the notebook that Cookie just passed to the board. And it's very clearly laid out. The questions,
Okay, but let's stay on the notebook, get to the server.
We will, but so, we are in a
Okay.
question
Yes.
area of the agenda, so,
There's
probably
one more
Yeah, we're
thing
out
I
of
need
order,
to
I
mention before you go into this.
Mhm.
Cookie mentioned that the areas that are covered, but what you have when you look at your HPA's, you've got 3 HPA's. They're a new type of HPA that Kelly came up with. They're a blanket HPA. And that allows us for 5 years to use that HPA for specific areas. And those are laid out and in clear, description for each of the HPAs.
thank you. We
Yeah.
really,
It's a hydraulic permit, can't say what the A is, but that's the A.
thank you guys so
Okay.
much. You guys really, this was extremely helpful.
Yes, yes.
Right, which is why we don't want to, we want to make sure we always have it accessible, which would be so great to have it on the server.
Yes, and we will. That's
And
not a
that, oh, by
problem.
the way,
Okay, but-
I didn't add that, she's right.
Yeah.
The reasoning behind it was to have it accessible so that it didn't get lost in
No,
wherever it's
you
kept.
guys, this is perfect. We
So-
appreciate it. Yes.
So who is the action item being assigned?
Okay,
What was the action
Thank
item?
you.
I'm sorry.
To find our remaining permits for fish and wildlife.
Good question. Make that mine and I'll figure that out. Was there any more questions? Yes.
4B, subparagraph I, I've got a question for Deborah.
Deborah, you have a question. If you want to come up so she can hear you. A member has a question for you. And then what section of the
Okay.
agenda was it?
This is item 4, sub B, sub I,
The violations
The
committee.
the violations
minutes.
committee.
He has a question about the violation committee, minutes.
Okay, go ahead.
You made a comment about this being online, Deborah, and I'm just curious if all of the stuff that we're doing digitally is going to be redundantly filed so that we don't lose anything.
Yes, it gets backed up into the server. Sorry, it gets backed up into the server, which gets backed up into the cloud.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question.
Any more questions? Thank you, everyone. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to old business, which is reviewing the approval of the July 3rd, 2019 Clearwood Community Water Service Plan. So the first is the confirmation of membership advertisement, and that was done. And then board review and recommendations from Road and Water Committee. Road and Water made a recommendation, we don't have they made an action plan for
No,
Deborah.
we don't.
Yeah, but they don't. They had Deborah call Lydia. Lydia, were you able to call? Well, sorry, I'll make a motion to, hold on one second. I make a motion to suspend the rule that we need a motion on the table for discussion, and then we're gonna go into open discussion. Thank you. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstaining?
Aye.
Opposed?
May I give an update?
Yes,
Madam Chair?
please, go. So,
Okay, so I did try, I had little difficulties getting Lydia's contact, I finally got it, and I did call, left a message, she did not get back to me yet. And so, the questions that we have are the ones that the board covered the last time I, kind of went through a few of the challenges in the water plan. And then Water and Roads did have one question, and my intention is to, give those questions to her, to have discussion with her about that, and then get back to the board. And then we can decide how to move forward on the water plan. So, we might want to consider moving the vote on the water plan pending that discussion, maybe to our next board meeting. I hope to be connected with her this week.
that's perfect. Thank you, Deborah. So, yeah, Road and Water, we had a few questions. Do you want to tell everyone what the questions were that Road and Water had?
Sure, I'll read it to you. Actually,
Okay.
I have it right with me here. So,
And these are the questions.
when we read it, it's very tiny font, so I have to it says, we have concerns about some of the information in the water plan being incorrect. For example, the number of connections is not clear. We do not increase fees by 3% a year. And others from your summary. She's speaking to Lydia, okay, from the committee. Specifically, we do not know if there are any penalties from the Department of Health if we knowingly submit incorrect information. Please ask Northwest Water Solutions if they can give us a document that holds us harmless in the event that any errors in the proposed plan have negative consequences on the community from the Department of Health. If they decline to give us such or say that there are no such penalties, please get this in writing. And then that's referring to all of the issues that the board covered the last time we talked about the water plan.
Thank you,
And what
Deborah.
I'll do with Lydia is I'll give her that question, go over what we talked about, that's pretty long. I can do it on the phone, I have it with me, but it'd take about, 10, 15 minutes to go through it all. And yeah, so that question that the water committee gave was related to the issues that were pointed out, yeah.
Do you guys have any questions?
No.
So yeah, so we're gonna get those questions answered from Lydia, and then they'll probably go to Road and Water, and then they'll bring a recommendation back to us, and then hopefully we make
Pass
we
forward.
accept the water plan.
Alright.
Okay, well, thank you, Deborah.
So do we have,
How you bet?
I have a motion. Does anyone have any more discussion?
No, but before you make that, we
So,
have member
Madam Chair,
comments,
while in
so-
discussion,
Oh,
I
thank
did
you.
send a motion that would, that worded what I just mentioned about moving it to the next board meeting and why.
Yeah, I have it. Thank you, Deborah.
Do a
We're gonna-
motion?
we're-
Thank you, okay, you got it, great.
We're gonna do member questions. Did any
Okay.
of the members have comments about our water plan? All right, so go, Deb.
Madam Chair, may I ask you, may I make a point? Emily, would you
Great,
mind
fine.
documenting in the minutes that she opened that piece of conversation up for the membership? That will help us. We kind of need that documentation for the plan.
She's just saying to recognize that we asked the membership for comments.
Okay.
Thank you,
That helps,
Emily.
it really is helpful. We can use that.
Thank you, Deborah. Go, Doug.
You bet.
Are you ready, Deborah?
So Doug has a question for you.
I do.
Okay, sure, go ahead, I'm ready.
Okay, you're ready. The $35 that we're paying quarterly,
Yes.
my question relates to specifically how that money will be used relating to this plan. Secondly is.
That money will be for water operations.
Yeah, that's
So
not,
that's the daily
Okay,
operations
that's
of the
fine,
water
okay.
system, which actually, well, it is kind of in the plan, but it helps fund that. And that covers the cost of maintenance, having to go and read the meters and maintain the meters, that kind of thing.
Okay. And then my second question is related again to that. Does this water plan, water service plan, is there sufficient funding available at this point, given the approval by the community, to work that water plan sufficiently so that in the future we're not faced with crises?
Well, no, this is why, let me explain. So, with the new fee that everybody's gonna be paying quarterly on their meters, the water operations should be fine, it looks like it, I think Jennifer's in the room, she can back me up, from everything we can tell, that's gonna be okay, so that kind of surprise, we do not anticipate having to revisit. However, water reserves, which is funding of the new well, which is
Yes.
funding of all the capital improvements, the water lines, et cetera, is not sufficiently funded, and that's according to our reserve study, and I believe, Jennifer, if you're in the room back, I think it's only about 7% funded, if that. And our goals for that is actually 70% funding.
Okay,
So we are far behind on our water reserves, which that is funded by the base rate.
okay,
So
that's
that's a
fine.
different funding stream for that particular fund. Currently, we believe we're gonna be okay on bringing well 5 up to, getting it up to speed. And we can certainly keep up on the really important capital, expenditures like keeping the wells running, those kinds of big expenses. It's just when we get to actually looking at the water and some of the other bigger components of our system, that's when the funding is gonna be a real challenge, and we'll kind of have to address it then.
And is there
That
going to
answer your
be
question?
chlorine added to the water?
no.
Okay,
But, I'm sorry.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
as of now, no.
that's fine. I wish it would, but that's fine.
I couldn't hear the question.
The question was, will there be chlorine added to the water?
stinks.
You know what, we're gonna absolutely try not to. That is, may I expand, Madam Chair?
Yes.
That is the actual point of having well 5,
Okay,
is not to have to use chlorine.
okay,
We do have a challenge currently, there's 2 of them. One is we do have manganese in that aquifer, and there's several methods to remove the manganese, but one of those does dissolve chlorine. We're trying really hard not to use that method.
all right.
And that has not been determined yet. The other challenge is that there is a question currently that we're working on, that there is communication between the lake and our aquifer. If that, and then we're gonna be doing a 72-hour pump test soon, and that will help us, the state decide, yep, there is, or no, there isn't. If there is a yep, there is, we will be required to chlorinate. And we're gonna step chlorinate well 5, then why would we use the expense of building a brand new well anyway, since that was the point of the new well? We will deal with that later. So I don't want to say emphatically no. We really do not know yet. Again, that 72-hour test, which should be imminent, I hope, will tell us a lot. And let's all be, and I'm a Christian, everybody knows it, let's all pray that that tested negative and that there is no communication between that aquifer and the lake, and we don't have to deal with that. And again, then we go back to just doing our absolute best to not have to use chlorine to remove that manganese. Again, there's a couple other options that don't involve chlorine, but Doug, I'm totally on your page. I do not want chlorine in our water.
The only question that relates to that is, has anyone mentioned about the manganese and the odor that the water has? I do have odor down where I have, where we live.
So, no,
Oh,
we have,
I haven't heard about the order.
Okay, no
The
problem.
odor is something
If
I'm not
nobody's heard
aware
that,
of,
then no
Doug.
problem. I
have
don't
not
wanna
seen
delay
any
this.
documents about odor.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, you bet.
Any more questions? All right, so, I'll make a motion to, to come back out of the suspended rule. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
Are you?
Aye.
Thank you. All opposed? Abstain? I make a motion to table the vote on the 2017 water plan to the next board meeting pending a response and discussion with Lydia Bauer from Northwest Water Systems.
I second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. Abstain? Motion passes. Okay. So, the next, item on the agenda is board liaison policy. I move to postpone this item, or the item board liaison policy to our next regular board meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
You have a second.
Thank you.
Couple of them.
Any discussion? Uh,
Yeah, I agree. I think we have some clarification to do on what the purpose is.
Okay. Yeah, and then, I do have an action when we finish the motion. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So I have an action item for this, and it was that all board members submit any drafts or notes 2 weeks before the next regular board meeting for distribution and review for the following board members.
Cool.
So, yeah.
That's already an action item.
Oh, well, good. Well, then we're gonna continue that action item, but I wanna do it 2 weeks prior. I wanna put like a date on it, so then we have, so when things come up right before, we're not overlapping all our reviews. Thank you. All right, so,
Appreciate you.
yes. And our next item is a safety deposit box update. So I will make a motion to allow, well, I don't know how this works. How do we just allow someone to
No,
make a
just acknowledge
statement?
it.
Yeah, acknowledge it? Because we don't need a motion
Yeah.
on it, we're just discussing, so.
That's okay.
That's okay?
Actually, I do need to have a discussion. Well, let's tell you what, how about I just want to get it on the table. How about I make a motion, Madam Chair, that I make a motion to acknowledge the close of the Key Bank safe deposit box, because we already approved to do it.
Mhm.
Let's just acknowledge it, because I want to talk about it for just a brief moment.
I'll second that.
Okay. In discussion, Madam Chair?
Yes.
Okay, so, board, there's an action insert in your packet that talks about this a little bit. I did, one of the action items for me from our last board meeting was to, close, whatever director that's the signature to close the actual safe deposit box. And for me to see where else we might finally look at OB first. So I did do that. I was able to get there and close the safe deposit box at Key Bank. Unfortunately, we were missing a key, so we did have to pay for that, but it is now closed. And so, then I did contact OB, and yes, we can use safe deposit box. However, they don't have any open right now. But we were paying $59, I believe, a year, or $55 for Key Bank. OB is going to be $65. The only documents that we're concerned about, if I understand correctly from our last board meeting when we talked about this, are the original incorporation documents. One thing, I would love to see those scanned into our server that'll end up in the cloud, so, if we had to, they wouldn't be the original, we could always recoup them. Currently, they're living in our safe, so we are going to go into retention with our new management at some point and do a total, what do you call that, rebuild, say, of filing and everything we do, and I don't know if that's gonna be a ways out, a year or so, but, just a thought as to when we address the issue of those original documents and how we address it. In the meantime, I've kinda got us on a waiting list for OB, or we can look around for a safe deposit box. The challenge with KeyBank is that they just made it very difficult for us to access it. And, we need a bank that when we change signatures on the board, that also they change the signatures, not just for checks, but also for the safe deposit box. So that's kind of our goal there. That's it.
Yeah, and the discussion was the bank won't be, it's not their responsibility to do that. It's gonna be our responsibility to remember to do that.
Yes.
But did you say, I'm sorry, I might have missed it. Did you say OB does not have safety or they didn't have room for us?
They do have them, but they don't have an open one right now.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, they're full.
So yeah, we have to go back and have the discussion on what to do with the
Exactly, we
items
do
that-
need to visit that some more. And I can certainly look around and make some more calls and see, okay, who else, but I think it needs to always have to be local.
Okay,
And I guess the question we really have to answer for ourselves is, do we need a safe deposit box?
yes.
With the challenges of accessing, and that automatic nature of which, like Melinda just pointed out, probably isn't gonna happen easily. What happens is if we don't change signatures on the safe deposit box, when we change signatures on the board, and let's say the previous board directors all die, we don't have access. And it's really hard. We had a difficult time as the directors that were there with KeyBank know, to get back into that box.
Yeah, 1 second, Deborah. Oh, I don't remember. What was your motion, Deborah?
It was, my motion was to acknowledge the close of the KeyBank safe deposit box. Because we voted to do it, now it's official, it happened.
Okay, perfect. So, Emily walked out of the room because we have, some things that had to be clarified, so, kind of in a hiatus right now.
You got it written down, or I can give it to her.
No,
later.
it's fine, she's not here to vote.
Who seconded it?
I did, I believe.
Alexis
Oh, I was
did.
gonna say, I thought
Or
you
am-
did.
or you did.
Oh, I,
seconded
no,
it.
that's true, I did do it.
Mhm.
So,
So if we just approved the motion, we acknowledged it, we discussed it.
we discussed it, and I think
But
that,
let's
I
get
think
it
we
on
should,
maybe a future agenda item, and people just be thinking about it in the meantime.
Well,
Do
I'm
we
gonna-
need a safe deposit box?
well, I'm gonna give you an action, I'd like to give you an action item of seeing, where other local safety deposit boxes are, so when we have the discussion, we know where we
No problem.
could possibly, put the things that we voted to have in a safety box.
Yeah, and it's important to know whether we have to have an account with that bank in order to have a safe deposit box.
You bet.
That's
I
not
will ask those
uncommon.
questions. I would love that to be an action item, so I remember to do it.
Yes. So, if you could restate the motion that Deborah had, and then we'll vote on it, and then we're gonna give Deborah an action item to see if there's any local safety deposit boxes that are not keeping, or will be, because they're not available.
I don't have her motion to restate it, so she's
Oh.
gonna need to restate it.
Can you
I can
raise,
give it to her
yeah.
again. You ready? Ready,
no,
Emily?
I don't think she is, she's writing something.
I'm sorry, Rachel.
I know
to
she's
confirm
ready. I can
something.
say it.
Yeah, you're good. Thank you.
Melinda,
Yes,
I don't, we have a safe here, and now it's very easy to change the combination because there's a digital combination and it's secure. It doesn't seem to me that the documents that we had in the safety deposit box, that it's necessary to have those there. In my opinion, I think that the documents are fine here in the office.
we voted to have them be in a safe deposit box, we have to relook at that discussion again, so I don't think that you're
We
wrong.
certainly- Yeah.
But let's see where we could put it and how much that would cost, and then we can have a discussion if we'll just keep them in the safe, we'll move that to the next meeting.
Yeah,
So can you
on the agenda, yep.
can you restate your motion, please?
I will. You ready, Emily?
Mhm.
Okay, so I made a motion to acknowledge the close of the KeyBank safe deposit box, and Alexis seconded it.
Actually,
Yeah.
Melinda seconded it.
I got that one.
Okay.
I thought another one happened while I stepped away.
Okay,
Nope,
so-
I got that one.
I'll call for the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
nays or abstains? And then action item for Deborah to look into safe deposit box, and then if we could have that rediscussing if we're gonna stay with the safe deposit box or keep the items in the safe. Okay. For the next agenda, please. Is there anything you needed to clarify with me? Okay, cool,
That's it.
cool, yay.
Oh, and I maybe, I didn't, can we those original documents into our server, which will get uploaded into the cloud. It's another thing we just don't wanna let lose sight of.
Yeah, I
We
don't
need
see
that.
why we
So that way
couldn't.
we can always recover them. Not that we'll ever really need them, but we could recover them if we had to.
Let's do that as an action item for myself, and I'll figure that one out too. Okay, so new business, is the new management contract proposals. I move,
What is that?
we're gonna talk about it. So I move to suspend the rule that we have to have a motion on the table, so we can go into discussion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you,
Second,
thank you. Oh, is this a new one?
I don't know. New one.
Oh, no.
Newer than.
Oh, I have, sorry.
Okay.
Yes, I had one with all my notes again. Let's go with it. Okay, so for everyone, for clarification, we went into contract with, Jennifer here, Spital Office Solutions, in August of this past year, correct? And her contract was for 6 months. We did end up adding an amendment, I believe, that lasted for 6 weeks. And that was when we realized that the budget we had approved in August wasn't functional. And so we, her and Mitch came to us with an action plan on how to correct our budget issues so we could be financially stable and have a budget that actually would pay the bills to reimburse our capital funds where we were accidentally taking money from because we didn't have enough actual money to spend. So thank you for that, Jennifer and Mitch, and Ashley for your support there. So Jennifer's contract will be ending March 15th, I believe, and then that will leave Clearwood without an accountant or bookkeeper, however you want to word that. But so we will need those services. Mitch's contract was for 12 months, so he still has around 6 months left. The board decided that we would ask Jennifer for a new proposal and what that would look like to keep her services. We had a thorough discussion with her and Mitch a couple weeks ago, and we asked for them to have a proposal turned into us. She returned her proposal. We haven't received Mitch's yet, so that will be a discussion for a different day. And so I'm going to allow Jennifer to speak on her proposal, and then we'll go through it.
Okay, great. So, just to start off with, there are some contract items from my original contract that aren't finished yet, and so what I'd like to do is take those items and roll them into the new contract. Obviously, there's no additional charge. I need to finish those items up, and I'll need a little bit of a time extension. So there are just a couple things outstanding just from the original contract. We've got some procedures and SOPs. I have them drafted, so getting them in a binder and presenting them to the finance committee and the board. The transfer resolution for 2019. Just looking at the collections policy and following up on some items there. The ICS accounts, and bringing in the fixed asset software and the bank reconciliations after the fixed asset software. We want to wait till the 2018 audit is done, and we can bring all that accounting back in-house. And that'll also help with the personal property tax report. Now, originally, my contract didn't include any ongoing bookkeeping services because at the time that I was hired, you had Allie, the business shop, doing the bookkeeping, and she's no longer with Clearwood. So this proposal is retroactive to January, and it's in 3 sections. I've got ongoing bookkeeping services, and then additional items, and then things that we should defer and budget for in future years, as would be my recommendation. So ongoing bookkeeping services, I just want to point out that the proposal is written up at discounted rates just to take into account Clearwood's nonprofit status. And I really like the community here, and I'd like to see it succeed and see this through, so.
Thank you.
So ongoing bookkeeping services, we've got bank reconciliations monthly, month-end journal entries, and when they're monthly tasks, they would be due by the second finance committee meeting of the month. It'd also be my recommendation that we either move the finance committee meetings or the board meeting to make sure that that second finance committee meeting always comes before the board meeting. Because right now, sometimes it does come before, but most of the time it's gonna come after, because it's the second and fourth Thursdays are finance, and then the board meeting's the third week, so most of the time it's after. So if we move that before, then that gives us enough time to close out the books before that second finance committee meeting, which we're not gonna have enough time to do currently, and then you can take that information to the board. So we've got month-end journal entries, bank transfers, water system allocation, the bad debt expense calculation, and then looking over the balance sheet and the profit and loss monthly to make sure that everything's classed correctly, that it's in the right departments, and that reporting is going to come through properly. We've got month-end reports. The internal financial statements will be generated by staff, and then we'll have templates set up in QuickBooks for them to use and a procedure for how that works. And then I'd like to prepare 2 supplemental reports, which would be a fund summary, and that's going to tell you where all of your reserves are, what you've collected to date, what you've spent to date, and then where you are going to project to be at the end of the year based on your current collections. So it's a really useful tool for planning your reserve projects, because how do you know how much money you can approve in your projects if you don't know how much money you're going to have at the end of the year? And so once a project is approved, we assume that all that money is spent, you can't spend it anymore, and then what's left, how much money is left to do the rest of the projects. And then the second report is just where your CDs are, where the investments are. So that way you know where they're invested when they come due. I'd like to do some capital project training. So I think really the goal of Clearwood, my understanding at this point, is to be self-managed with oversight. And so that means that we're going to need to do more training for the staff. And one of the things that I'd like to train them on is keeping track of the capital projects. What was worked really well for me in the past is that each capital project is set up on the income statement, on the profit and loss, as a line item down at the bottom in like 9,800 accounts. Because on the profit and loss, you can track a budget to actual. So then when the project's approved, we put the board approved budget in there, and then as the project gets spent, you code all the expenses to that one GL. And that way, at any point in time, whether it's the check signer or a member of the community or the board, if you want to see where your project is, you can just run a report right out of QuickBooks. It's going to print there monthly on the financial statements, and you're going to see where you're at with those projects. And then also keeping a project folder for each capital file. It needs to have the board approvals, it needs to have all the contracts for that project, and then copies of all the invoices that have been spent to date. So that way, come audit time, when the auditor says, I want to look at these 5 assets, you say, great, that's 50 invoices, and here you go, here's your 5 files. And they just have all that information, and they can look at that. I'd be the primary banking administrator. So that's my role currently. So I'll just continue on in that role, and that's just being the point of contact for the bank. And when the signers change, I'll just get all the paperwork prepared for the new signers. So all you have to do is sign.
And change our safe deposit box if.
No, if we have
yes,
yeah.
if that's what you decide to do, yes. Though I don't think that it's needed.
Yes.
And then positive pay management. So now that we've got the kinks worked out of positive pay, it's working quite well. And so that's a service that our new bank offers, and it helps prevent fraud. So a list of all the checks that are printed inside in the office gets uploaded by someone who didn't print the checks or sign the checks. So that'd be myself, uploaded to the bank, and then the bank will not cash any check unless it matches that. And they come back and they say, hey, this is an exception. Do you really want to cash this? You look it up and you say yes or no. So it's important that that role be done by someone who's not printing the checks, so and not making the purchases. So it needs to be a third person, not staff. So I'll continue in that. We've got revenue billings. So we're able to upload all the invoices and take that process of quarterly water billings from a week of overtime to just a couple of hours, and generate those invoices directly out of QuickBooks. And so just managing that process and making sure that everything is uploaded properly, whether that's the annual membership dues or the quarterly water billings or the annual renter's fee. We've got state and local tax filings, not federal income tax filings. That'd be done by your auditor. But the state and local taxes are the monthly excise taxes. There's also an annual personal property tax filing, like taxes on the furniture and the TV and stuff. And then there's your actual property tax. So the property taxes will be paid by Rachel, but we need to do a exemption, a nonprofit exemption for the property tax annually. It's due on the 31st of March. Payroll management. So just entering the time cards bi-weekly and making sure payroll gets processed properly, accounting for any deductions or changes in pay. Budget creation and management. So this is a big one. And we now have a new process for Clearwood. It's a shortened process, 5 months. And so I want to get that well documented and do a training on it, and then get a calendar and a flow chart. Like, this is how it works. This is what everyone's responsibility is. This is what each person's role is in developing the budget. This is how we develop a bottoms-up budget. And then we'd have comparisons to 2019 and where we're at year to date in 2020, which should be through May by that time. Since 2018 and prior is maybe not the best data, given the history, we're going to start with 2019 and go forward. And so I want to document that process, give a training, and then come and do in-person presentations to the board and the finance committee. So 2 in-person presentations of that, and then 2 town halls and presenting the PowerPoint for the budget, and also doing the budget measure, the actual measure. Okay. And then we've got monthly finance committee telepresence and strategy calls. So attend virtually the finance committee meetings, just the second one of the month, where we present the financial reports, not the first one. And then having a call with the treasurer or the board president ahead of time to make sure that we're all set up and that we've got everything you need for the agenda, and that all those documents are submitted, answer any questions, where are we going, how are things doing, that sort of thing, and all of which, of course, can also be discussed at the finance meeting. And then attending the managers meetings. When we first came on board, we had weekly managers meetings because there were so many changes and lots of things happening, but as we've gotten more comfortable over the last 6 months and people are a little clearer in what their role is, we don't think that those need to happen every week, but bi-weekly would be sufficient. Our meetings, they just haven't been as productive every week. I don't think it's necessary. And then I touch base with the admin staff for accounting on a almost daily basis. Hey, how's it going? Where are you at? What questions do you have? And similarly, Mitch touches base with the maintenance manager on a weekly basis. These are all the maintenance projects that don't need to be brought to a manager's meeting. Manager's meeting is for what do we have going on? How can we help each other? What needs to happen? Is this a project we need collaboration on? And I think they're really effective at making sure everyone's on the same page and can meet their goals. So attending those virtually. And then just general miscellaneous accounting support. So kind of whatever else needs to be looked at with an average of 4 hours a month. Reviewing contracts, answering QuickBook questions. If there's something really big that comes up that's kind of outside of the scope, then we can step back and look at that. But I'll track my time to make see where we're at with that. So this proposal would include 7 nights of travel. They'd be billed separately at the per diem rate of $180 for Thurston County. And then additional travel would be that $180 as well. So all those bookkeeping services are included for $3,300 a month. It does not include my manager's reports that I've been writing the monthly reports. If you would like the monthly reporting, then we could do that for $3,500 a month. We'll go ahead and get you that written monthly report as well.
We talked about this yesterday.
And so then we have some additional services. I need to finish coordinating the 2018 audit and get that 2017 report issued. I've spent quite a bit of time working on that. There's more documentation that they need that just was never created. They need us to calculate the bad debt expense. They need us to do the calculations and give them the fixed asset additions. They can't do that work for us. They're supposed to be checking the books, not creating the books. So I need to finish that. And that would be $900. And it's at a deeply discounted rate because it just needs to get done. And then we have 2019 year-end closing and 2019 audit and federal income tax coordination. And so it is a best practice that after the close of the year, you do extra work on the books, you go through and you review everything, and you create the supporting documentation now that you're going to use for the audit when the auditors come out in June or July. So that way, when they come out, you give them a thumb drive, you give them access to the file cabinets, and if you've done your work, they shouldn't have any questions. Should be very few questions from the auditors. They're just going to look at everything and go, oh, that ties, that ties, that ties, that ties, that ties. And hopefully the only adjusting journal entry you have is depreciation. It's the most common entry, instead of a whole list of entries to say, oh, the books didn't tie out last year and you did this. And so that's what I'd like to do. I'd like to close out the books, get those December financial statements issued, and not have them change. That would be the goal. And so that would be completed no later than 3 weeks after this we agree to the engagement. And then all work for 2021 would be budgeted for 2021, and we'd go ahead and look at this contract again in November and then budget for that then. So and then we've got the reserve study. So that's an offsite reserve study. There's some work that needs to be done from an accounting perspective in order to make sure that the assets that are listed are correct, that the useful lives are right, and just going through and analyzing that, giving that information to the reserve consultant and having them update the report. That'd be $500. And then we may need some additional support for fraud and investigation, and that would just be billed on an hourly rate. And then there's a couple things that I think that we should defer, partly because we don't have the funds, and partly because I don't think that we're quite there yet. So I think that an industry-specific accounting software would be really valuable for Clearwood. We do know that Clearwood just paid a lot of money to get transferred into QuickBooks Online. It's a great software, but it doesn't offer a lot of the internal controls that would really be beneficial to be able to properly segregate the duties of accounts receivable and accounts payable. It's just not that robust. And so eventually I think that we should talk about moving to an industry-specific software, though not today. Additionally, industry-specific software allows you to track ACC violations and regular violations, security violations, and the committees can have access to that, and you only give them access to the violations module. It doesn't give them access to any of the financial data or member account balances, but then they can use that as a tool to track all that information. The other item that I think that we should defer and budget for next year is going to be the liens. There are an estimated 370 liens that need to be removed and or filed here at Clearwood. And an experienced person takes about an hour, about 45 minutes to place the lien and 15 minutes to remove the lien, and then a manager needs to sign off on it. And so that's a lot of time. And I really think that would be better served having an employee trained to do that and budgeting to have that staff time in next year. And so for 2020, I think we should just stay with the status quo, which is that we place the lien when needed, and if someone calls and they need the lien removed or they're selling their home, then we remove it. And we would just have that go to council, which is $150 a lien or so for 2020, because we don't have that, the time to do that is not in the budget. So that's my proposal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And how much is,
That's just
I have a question when it's
Jennifer.
about time.
Okay, hold on, everyone hold on. Okay.
all right,
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna go around the table one at a time, and so I think we're gonna begin with
Okay.
Alexa, and then, so let's try to do one topic at a time, and we'll go around that one topic. So let's just,
Okay.
start out at bank reconciliation. Does anyone have a comment or question about bank reconciliations? Nope, okay. Month-end journal entries. Do we have any comments or questions? All right, balance sheet checkup. Review profit and loss classifications. Month-end reports. Capital project filing, SOP and training. Primary banking administrator. Positive pay management. Revenue billing. state and local taxes. And so me and Jennifer spoke yesterday, and just to note, I thought we were missing the 1099s, but that's already been done for this year, so that would be a discussion we would have going into any other proposals we might look at later. So,
But sorry, Madam Chair, I do have a question.
yes,
So I couldn't quite hear, so that is part of the proposal?
it's not, because it's already been done for this year, and this is for the 2020 year.
I mean, for next year?
Yeah, so for next year, we would relook at, this is for a year engagement, so we'd look at this again, like in October, November of this year.
Okay, got
Yeah,
it.
and include it then.
Okay.
And she said she wouldn't forget.
I will not forget.
Because that was the one thing
We're gonna keep a laundry,
there were two things that were
we're gonna keep
missing.
a laundry list,
Yes.
don't forget, right?
We actually have a contract listing for Clearwood, and Mitch's proposal will include some time to manage that and ensure that other contracts, including this one, don't fall off the radar.
And so the next subject was payroll management. Any questions or comments? Budget creation and management.
I just want to say this
Say that
sounds,
again?
Alexa,
Creation, yes, I do have a question.
okay,
Yeah.
Alexa is gonna go, and then you'll go,
Yeah.
okay?
I just want to say, I really appreciate, I mean, this is just what I had in mind. This was just what I was hoping we would be able to do. But I did have a more general question on training.
Mhm.
Where are you in, there was some training proposed in the old contract, and what has been completed and what is still ongoing?
Yeah, so I do have a couple things that are still open in regards to training. It's mostly in the office and writing up the SOPs. So documenting the the document retention policy, how to do W-9s, which is already documented and being followed, internal control documentation. So there's at the start of every audit, the auditors come out and they do an analysis of where you're at as a company as far as internal controls go, so that way they can determine the level of risk that you have based on the level of controls that you have. Fewer controls, higher risk; higher controls, lower risk. And
Okay.
so it's a pretty standard document, and I've interviewed Rachel, and we've made changes right when I started based on that interview, and so I want to document all of that, so that way everyone says these are our policies, this is why we have them, and this is why the controls are in place to reduce that risk.
And then
Okay.
SOP for procedure for payroll too.
Yes, for
Yes.
payroll.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if staff have additional needs for training,
Mm-hmm.
they can ask you, they can negotiate with you on that.
Yeah, additional needs for training, and there's that 4 hours, just additional support, and I spend about an hour on average a week answering questions and doing additional training, and so I think that that's a fair estimate. And questions come up all the time. How do we do this? How do we do that? Did I do this right? Can you take a look at that? And so I just go in and take a look at it.
Did you have any more questions for the budget creation or
No.
management? And then, so Deborah, if you
I
have
do.
comments, yes. You can go, Deborah.
So my question is my time?
Yes.
Okay, so my question is on the budget, but it's not so much the future budget, it's 2020. And I can't see numbers because I'm obviously on the phone, so I just want a general answer here. So I can't see the amount of the proposal. So my general question, not specific, is the proposed amount, not including some of the extras, if we need them, within the amount of money planned for 2020 for accounting services and for bookkeeping?
It is
I mean, sort of a yes or no. I mean, we either have it or we don't.
it is a little over budget. So there was budgeted my initial contract plus $3,300 a month thereafter. So January and February are not budgeted in the current budget, and then the additional services
So
will not
January
be
and
budgeted.
February are not in the original, because it was in the old contract.
No, but they were not in the budget, and it's not in the old contract. There's no continued bookkeeping in the current contract.
I got you. Okay, so we need to look at how much over it is and kind of where we're going to find that in 2020.
That,
I'm saying that's where I'm headed with.
So I think that the funds are going to be able to be found in the liens. So we did budget. There's income and associated expense with putting the liens on and taking them off, and that's about $10,000. And so if we continue on the status quo with the liens for this year because we don't actually have the staff time to do that work. We only budgeted for the expense, not for the staff time. Then there would be about $10,000 of funds available to spend elsewhere in the association for the year.
And then we could find the funds in there.
Yep.
And that's
the thing is
deferring
finance,
the liens.
we'll look at it,
Deferring the
we're gonna review
liens.
it, we'll find it,
Mhm.
yeah.
And that's
Okay.
it, Madam
I will-
Treasurer, that's, yeah,
When
no,
we get to liens, I do have another question.
yeah, so, but make note of that when you take this to finance.
Right.
Mhm.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, yes.
That's what I wanted.
Mhm.
All right, and do we have any more questions in the section of budget creation and management? Okay, so next is finance committee and strategy calls. And then I think for this, sorry, did anyone have any comments? I have a comment.
I do have one.
Okay,
Go ahead, you first.
okay, with the moving the finance meetings, I feel like it could also be easy just bump the board meeting to the fourth Saturday if that's easier than having, them move
I
two
believe,
whole
let's check,
meetings.
make sure board meetings aren't in the bylaws. I don't think
Can I
they
see
are.
your yellow
I don't
book,
think the
please?
date in the board, it's not the third Saturday, does it say the third Saturday? Ashley, are you familiar? I have to look at.
Yeah, we
So-
had the discussion yesterday, and I think we decided it wasn't.
That's the updated one, right?
That's
Yes.
That's the updated one. So I believe when we wrote the bylaw measure that we left it open so you could determine when you would like to have, if you wanted to change your board meetings, you had that option to change your board meetings within the bylaws. I believe that's what we did.
Okay, good, I hope so.
I'm looking right now.
Me too, I'm looking too.
Says at least 4
Mhm.
at. You have to post the agendas 48 hours.
If it says at least 4, then it's not every
Nope, it doesn't say
fourth
it.
or
So yeah,
third
so
Saturday.
that's just,
Great,
I'm
oh,
just
perfect.
thinking,
Okay,
that
cool.
could just be
We
something,
could
yeah.
do the meetings, the board meetings, yes.
Yeah, but that was just, instead of asking a committee to move 2 meetings, maybe the board moves 1 meeting, I don't know, I mean, Saturday's a Saturday in my book, but, yeah, so that was my only comment. Deborah, did you wanna say your comments?
I got just one step in that, about the finance meeting attendance, just that, it's really more directed at other directors than it is a question for Jennifer. I hope everybody picked up on the fact that, so she's not saying she'll be present at one finance meeting a month, she's saying she'll do it virtually, meaning
Yep.
Right,
over the phone, over
Right.
Zoom.
Mhm.
So
right.
we would have, I'll use the term kindly, a talking head or a talking voice in the room versus a person. I know there's been
Right.
discussion about that and some members kind of wanting that personal, but this proposal is not about her making the trek down here for finance meetings only.
Right.
It's about her being there virtually.
Right.
Yeah, which I think is great, and if we can have her available, I think it's her having her available.
And the goal is to have it be a
It's better than
telepresence.
her making the trip,
Mhm.
yes.
Yes.
Yes, okay.
So I feel like there's
And if I could just add one question.
Mhm.
Will finance have the current financial statement for Monday for our meeting,
it's the
for our
second
special
meeting,
meeting?
it's this,
A special meeting to consider your contract.
Oh, so I don't have the financial statements prepared because it's actually not in my contract to prepare December's financial statements. And so I would like the contract accepted, so that way I could go ahead and do that work to finish out the year.
I mean January's.
January's are not included in my contract either.
Okay.
There are no ongoing bookkeeping services in my current contract, because when I was hired, there was a bookkeeper. I had to do the financial statements in order to complete the budget, but then there's nothing else
So we
additional
have to
that's in
work
there.
from the 2020 budget to determine whether we have the money to
Mhm.
pay for your contract.
Mhm.
Okay.
well, I mean, we're only,
Madam Chair, I have a follow-up question.
okay, hold, 1 second. Yeah, I mean, which I don't think would be too hard, because we're only into halfway through February,
Yeah.
so, I mean, we only spent so much of the 2020 budget as of now,
Mhm.
so, I think it'd be easy enough, but yeah. Deborah, go.
Okay, so my question, the follow-up question is this, so do we have a clear picture of how much money we'll be looking for this contract? Meaning, we can, even though we don't have actuals for the year, we have enough information in the contract to know that, okay, this is what we're looking for, this is what it will cost, this is what we.
Do you
I
not,
guess, Jennifer, if you could be specific in sending the finance team the amount that was budgeted for accounting in 2020 when we made the budget, then we'll know what we're looking for, amount-wise, because I don't think we really, it was kind of in a bulk line versus separate separate it out, you know what I mean? And so, because you had mentioned that you had budgeted for the services going into 2020, but we don't know what the actual numbers broke down to. Does that make sense? So if we could get a number, this is what was budgeted for, we need to know how much we have to find.
But Deborah, the management line, it might be, consider all management services, but we kind of get to decide how we spend it, I'm assuming?
You do get to decide, it's on three
How
lines.
much we budgeted for accounting services.
Yeah, we have a budget line for that.
It's like payroll, if you put all payroll in one line, I mean, for example, look at maintenance payroll, you see payroll maintenance, but you don't know what each employee costs.
Well, I think
Because
what,
it didn't break it down. I
what we
just say
need
break
is
that down
just
so we
proposal,
understand how
so we
much
can
money
compare.
finance has to find, or Jennifer, tell us how much finance has to find, okay? So when we have our meeting, we know what we're talking about.
Okay, so Jennifer, action item for yourself, or the proposal please, is that, what Deborah said, is if we could have those numbers for finance to be available, if you could be support there.
Yes, I would love to.
Okay.
I'll send those over.
All right, no worries.
And then, Emily, did you have any comments for this part?
No, I think for what we were going to do, as far as review all the information, make everything was included
Yep.
that we wanted,
And send it to finance?
then go to
I
finance.
know, we're having a
I think
finance
that this
conversation.
is,
Yes.
and I think that's difficult, because 3 of you are already on finance, and I am not.
No, but
the
Emily's making a really good point.
The point of this was to just make sure that we had everything that we wanted to see in the proposal, that we
Finance.
discussed at the last meeting. Jennifer did an amazing job making sure everything was included and detailed. So yeah, I'm good with this going to finance for like a deep dive review, and then coming back, and hopefully we have a full board to have those detailed conversations.
Right.
But yeah, I think it looks good.
I agree with Emily, and I kind of felt the same way. We're not at a finance meeting, we're at a board meeting, and so we need to be discussing exactly like what is in the proposal as scope of work and responsibilities, and seeing where we see there might be problems there, so we can have the discussion with Jennifer, and then finance will tear apart the spending part. And that is their job.
Exactly, but we have to know what we're looking for, yes.
Yeah, well, yeah, but you're right, so now Jennifer can help us with that before the special meeting. Okay,
Right,
perfect.
she can, and she's, yeah. We
So,
know what we're
When
looking
is
for,
the
yes.
special meeting?
Well, I was going to email finance, I asked them to do it Monday, but I feel like some of them aren't gonna be able to make it, so I feel like we could push it to Wednesday, because the reason to have the special meeting was concern about not having time for legal to look at it, which we fumbled on that, because legal don't just look at proposals, they look at contracts.
Oh,
So
okay.
we're gonna take finance's recommendations, and finalize the proposal, and then the contract will go to legal, so
Yes, right.
there was
Okay.
a flub in communication there, so if you guys wanna push it till like Wednesday, I don't feel like you guys have to rush it, but that gives you guys a week, or I mean, not a week, a few more days, it gives the finance, or the board a week to like review your guys' recommendations, and then we'll finalize the proposal, and then Mitch said that legal shouldn't have a problem with this, he thinks that it's so clear that legal should be able to just be able to look through your contract pretty easily.
And when is the board meeting?
The 26th.
The 26th of
Of-
February?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just want to
At
connect. I want to
6:30.
plan.
I have it in my
Okay.
We already planned it at the last meeting, if you remember.
I'm just wanting to make sure that there's enough time. I would hate for this to go to finance and then it's a rushed process.
Right.
So,
That's why I said you guys could probably have your meeting on your schedule, but then it gives only us those 2 days to review the recommendations before we discuss it. So I feel like them moving their meeting up a little bit, but not necessarily Monday, and giving us, you guys have a handful of days, we have a handful of days.
It'd be a week. So if the finance committee meets on the 19th, then the board is meeting on the 26th. Yep. So that's a week.
But do you have a
Yeah.
different suggestion?
I'm not sure I can be here on the 17th, which is why I haven't answered you, Alexa. I won't know till Monday.
Okay.
And so that's why I haven't answered your question yet.
Yeah, and I haven't heard from Bob yet either. I suspect he's out of town.
And it will be one of those things where it won't be beneficial if we don't have the finance committee looking at it. And like how it's not necessarily beneficial that we don't have a full board today, so it's good when we have everyone involved.
Right.
So do we need this back by the, 15th is like where it all just goes away.
Oh,
your
that's-
contract.
Oh, by March 15th?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the end of my contract. And, I ideally, ideally we could come to an agreement as soon as possible. That
Yes.
way there's not too much back work to do
Yes.
to go ahead and get caught
Right.
up in for the year. And so I don't know, if the board's meeting on the 26th, then I'm going to go ahead and just prepare my contract so that way it can, and then so I can put any changes in that the board has, but then we can go to legal and
That would be awesome.
on the
'Cause that
27th.
was the idea, is
Mhm.
trying to get the ball rolling, so. Yeah, I like the idea of not losing too much time with Jennifer waiting so she can start
Right.
doing the financial statements,
Yeah.
preparing them, not printing them. But yeah. I feel like
No, I mean, that's fine.
So-
I get the sense of urgency. It still shouldn't be rushed. So
Yes.
as long as
if
the
you
finance
can't-
committee and the board has enough time to review it, I'm good.
Can you make phone calls to your members to see, so I know, because emails don't always necessarily, because especially if they're not expecting to have a meeting for another 2 weeks, they're probably maybe not looking at the emails, so maybe we just do need to get on the phone and say, hey, like, are you available? And then, yeah, I think just sometime next week, preferably before Friday, I
Yeah.
think would be beneficial.
Well,
And
okay,
then the recommendations would, all your recommendations would go to the board as soon as your meeting's finished, like all the recommendations we have today, or any changes today would go to finance right now after the meeting. And then we'll just keep the flow going.
okay.
And then, and then if you have the contract, ready with making the amendments, and then we just boop to legal.
Mhm.
All right, beep, beep, boop. Okay, so the next line was managers meetings. Did anyone have any comments or questions about manager meetings? And then the next one was miscellaneous accounting support. One of the comments I had for this was, looking at it as like we do 4 times 12, because there's 12 months in a year, and then so say 1 month we just don't have a lot of questions, but say something comes up 1 month and we might go over that 4 hours. And Jennifer, you were comfortable with kind of that wiggle room?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
definitely. That's what I had in mind.
Okay.
It's an average of that time, and so it's, some months it might be a little less, and some months it might be a little more, and it should all average out by the end of the year.
Perfect.
Mhm.
So I just wanted that stated, so then we're not like, oh no, we can't call her. So and so we're not worried about.
I would much rather you call and we fix the
Yeah.
accounting issue right away.
Thank you. And then there was a typo, I don't know if you guys noticed it, about the travel per diem.
Oh, yes.
One of them was 180, one was 196, and she said that we were gonna stick at the 180.
Correct. Mhm.
And
And that's
Okay.
for hotel and meal.
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
because the hotel is not
then
one of these
Right.
things.
So
So I
the
want to make sure.
the GSA per diem rate for Thurston County is $130 for a hotel, and it's $66 for meals for a whole day and $50 meals for a travel day. And so I did the hotel plus the travel day rate.
Yep, I just want to make sure those were included
Yes.
because.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Perfect.
And then no charge for the time to get down here or the mileage.
And I missed, where does it say that 7 nights are included?
it's in the very
It's the
bottom.
footnote.
Oh, okay,
It's not included. That it'll be billed for that.
So it's not part of her monthly.
oh,
Mhm.
okay,
It's
okay,
for, yes.
all right,
And
I see,
she has little footnotes throughout where that would be applicable.
okay, I see that now.
And then, so then we get to the cost sheet. Did everyone feel like that's reflective of the scope of work? Did anyone have any comments or questions? And then additional services, I just wanna say thank you for both the additional services and recommendations. I feel like it's very thorough and helps us even look at our future, and I appreciate you recognizing that what we can afford, but we shouldn't lose scope of the work. So thank you for that. So with the additional
I
services,
do have a question about leave.
okay, just one moment. So with the additional service, my
Okay,
question.
wait, finish. I just didn't want you to move on to the next topic until I did that.
No problem. Additional services, so we don't have to agree on doing them, but these are what how would you like us to look at this, like contract wise? Is this something that we can say yes to now or later?
Yeah, so the first two would need to be done now. And the reserve study coordination and the fraud investigation could be looked at later.
And then the year-end closing would obviously probably be.
That'd be in next year's contract.
And Madam Chair, you're circling the ones that need to be done now, so we'll know it at finance.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, so, yes.
Thank
Are you, sorry, Emily, are you capturing those? for the proposal?
The notes for
Yeah,
it?
yeah, like, it's, I'm capturing it.
I can pull the notes.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and so, okay, so then those would we want into the contract, so those, the 900 and the 1900 are things that we want finance to consider when it comes to cost.
Right.
Yes.
And then the bottom three would be things that we put on finance's radar for budget building, which you are going to help us
Mhm.
build the budget.
Mhm.
So yes, so did anyone have any questions on any of these?
On the additional services?
Yes.
No.
So, Deborah, do you wanna go with your lean questions?
Yes, I have a link question. It's kind of more of an informational thing and sort of a question. Okay, so we had a little bit of a conversation at the last finance meeting about liens and so I actually called the county auditor because I need to resolve a little bit of confusion. And here's what the bottom line is on liens is that, and Jennifer already knows this, and this is leading up to my question for you too, Jennifer, so bear with me a second, is that it's $103 for the first page. It's $1 per page after that. We simply get the form, and our staff, like you already know, can fill it out and mail it in. You can't fax it, you can't do it by electronically. They want the original document. That they mail it in with a check for the appropriate amount, and of course, reversing that is the opposite process with the same fee involved with that. So that's the Thurston County Auditor. And so, Jennifer, you mentioned earlier in this whole presentation that we are currently just putting them on with Haster. Who is doing that? Because Rachel was under the impression, I just have to say, this is what led to this whole thing, was that she was under the impression that it had to be done in person, that only the president could do it, which turned out to not be true. Meaning that the president had to personally file the lien. Okay, that was what the impression she was under. So, given that, who's currently filing or removing any liens that we are removing or filing?
It would be legal, and I don't know that any liens
Oh,
have been.
we had Davis doing it. Oh.
And so it's a real process
So
to
we
file a
don't have to
lien.
have Davis do it.
We do
We can do it.
at this point because we're not properly trained to file or remove the liens. You have to check title and you have to check owner documentation, and it is a legal process, and we don't have the proper training to file them correctly right now. So I would not recommend that staff do
We're
it.
paying attorneys to do this. My thought would be to save some funds, because we need to find out what our budget would be to, let's get our staff, because I gotta tell you, a little background that nobody seems to know. We did our own liens internally for probably 20 years or more.
Deborah.
And so my thought is, let's train staff. What checks, or give them a checklist, and maybe, I don't know, whatever that looks like. Let's get them trained, whether you train them or we take it to the auditor's office to get them trained. And that way we can do that internally and not have to use an attorney to do that. That's food for thought. I had to get that out.
That's in Jennifer's proposal in the lien section.
Oh, is it for training? Oh, good.
Yeah.
I can't see it, so I heard her say liens, but I didn't hear that part.
Was it not emailed to you?
I got it yesterday.
Well, if it was, I haven't seen it yet, so sorry.
Oh.
I'm not in a place where I can get to it.
Oh, okay, yeah, no.
I don't have the community, I don't have my board email on my phone, so I can't see it.
Oh,
I only
okay.
have it for my home.
So what Jennifer said, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we're not adding or removing liens at the moment. So we're not spending any money with legal on it right now, and she says that we really can't afford to do it, and that is something that we're gonna build in the 2021 budget, so we can train the employees to remove liens at a less expensive cost. So yeah, she's totally on board with what you're saying.
But the point she was making was that to find the extra funds for this contract proposal, they're in the liens fund.
Yeah, and so
It's lien fees. That's how we're gonna find it. So if we're not removing or adding liens, where are those fees coming from?
I think it was the idea that instead of spending the money on the adding and removing, we'd be spending it on Jennifer. Am I incorrect
Okay,
there?
we budgeted for
Okay.
10,000. I get you now. Sorry, now I get it.
Yeah, and then we would build the 2021 budget to reflect accounting services and liens. So that will be a discussion
Okay, but even
come
still,
June.
I get you now. I'm sorry, tracking. I said, forgive me for that, but walk us through that whole exercise.
Yeah, no.
But that said, it still would be cheaper to do it ourselves. The few that we have to do, and obviously we're having the attorney do the ones we have to do it ourselves than to have to pay the attorney.
Are are,
we don't have the proper training to do them ourselves at this point. So I don't know what process you followed in the past, but that's not documented anywhere. And we need to properly train our staff to perform this legal action before
Well, I get
we
that,
have them do it.
My point is, let's train staff, let's
we,
get it trained so we can.
we will,
That's
I mean,
gonna
we
be
can have that conversation later, we don't have it now.
included in Mitch's proposal.
oh, perfect.
Great.
Okay,
All
so,
I did have one
Yes.
question on the accounting software. How much
Mhm.
is this industry-specific accounting software?
So it's more expensive as well. So at a larger homeowners association, it was $750 a month, or about $8,000 a year. So there really has to be a lot of benefits before we choose to move to the industry software. And I personally think that the benefits are there. You can also give members access to their accounts online, so they can go and look at their own balances and see where they're at with their accounts. And I just think that it should be looked at in the future.
What's the software called?
There's one of them is called Complete Control for Communities, or C3. Another one is called Village Management Software. What's the other?
Like right off the, I know, right off the top of my
And there's
head, I
a
can't remember.
third as
There's a
well
third
that
one.
I'd look at.
Mhm.
maybe, could you, email the chair of finance those things, and maybe that was something finance would wanna just
Mhm.
research in the next
Yeah.
year?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, did anyone have any more questions for the additional services or the recommendation deferment? Nope. So, I guess for follow-up questions, when it comes to the proposal, so you said this would be year-long,
Mm-hmm.
so, and it would begin as soon as the contract was signed, I guess,
Mhm.
so that would kind of be, we don't know exactly when that will happen, but
Mhm.
sometime in the next couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it would go through till next March,
Mhm.
so,
It'd be January to December.
January, okay,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's backdated, so you
Backdated.
would catch up
And
on
so I'll
this.
catch up.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so January to December, okay, and then, I don't know if we have this conversation now or at the next meeting, but, so when it comes to, I guess, how we would, okay, we had a discussion the other day, and I'm gonna stop talking now, and we'll talk about that later, okay?
Is there anything in this proposal that I mean, I think everything that's in here is what needs to be done, and I tried to be really specific for what each person's responsibilities are, whether that's the board or the committee or staff or myself. And so is there anything in here that you feel like you don't need, or I guess there's, or does this look good to you? Just curious.
I thought it was great.
Great.
One, it was, I think, for being HOAs, for being volunteer board, this was very reader friendly.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like it was very clear, on what your scope of work was gonna be, and where maybe that work would go other than yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciated the cost break, I appreciate this, I feel like members ask for this,
Mhm,
so it's kind of like what you were doing and then there's the cost. And I really appreciated the additional services and the recommendation deferments.
Okay,
I already
great.
said it.
Thank you.
The only thing that was missing from your old contract, when we talked about this, was the monthly reports, which I guess the conclusion there was that they're kind of redundant because the financial statements will be coming on a regular basis, looking at our investments and our transfers, and that's kind of what we really just need, so we probably don't need to increase the cost just for a monthly report. But that was a discussion, I said we have to, that was the only thing I saw that was missing from her previous contract.
Okay.
Besides for
About
adding books.
What number of hours are you kind of basing this on? How much time do you estimate devoting to the community?
So on average, total hours, I'll have to look at the total hours because during budget season, it ramped way up, and then outside of budget season, it went back down. But I could get back to you with that figure.
Okay.
Okay.
To backtrack though, Melinda,
Yes.
what was discussed as far as what additional information will be included in the monthly manager reports that wouldn't be included in the financial statements?
You mean, what,
I mean, as far as like if you're deciding whether you want the manager's reports or not, what additional information would have been provided in those that we wouldn't have gotten from the financial statements?
I suppose it would just be an update of you know, what items did we, what additional training did we do? What items did we talk about in the office this month? What contracts got reviewed? But those would all be things that I would report on at the finance committee. So I guess it would be an oral report instead of a written report.
Which we'll make note of at
Mhm.
finance, because we
Mhm.
have an account manager, section of the agenda.
And those are detailed in the minutes as far as.
I've been detailing
Okay.
them, so I mean, when it comes to like, yeah, like she's accomplished something,
Mhm.
something hasn't done accomplished, something's being deferred, like I feel like I've done a good job. But we can definitely make them more detailed, that could definitely be something we do.
Well, I
And
just think it's
Mhm.
helpful to have updates, but I
Mhm.
don't know how I feel about
a $250
extra $250 to
update.
provide an update.
Cause I think she's right, that she'll have that conversation with the treasurer, and then have that discussion, and then her and the treasurer usually have their updates, and then we can just have finance capture them. And then we have action items at finance, and
Mhm.
Jennifer gets action items, and those are followed up on in the minutes too.
Mhm.
I think as long as we're good at doing our
And
minutes,
Jennifer will be in the email loop for the finance minutes.
Mhm.
and then,
Mhm.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be and that's what is in my reports now, is everything that's already on the finance committee meeting agenda. I mean, there's nothing that's in my report that's not been discussed at finance. So I just don't know that it was really necessary to have it written out. It's definitely an oral report.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey,
Unless you like it.
So yeah, so I guess, no one thinks we need to have a monthly report.
Right.
Yep. I feel like that was the only thing that was the only thing I caught, I guess.
Okay.
And so I just said we would talk about it, but okay, cool.
Okay.
All right, so
Thank
yes, thank you, Jennifer. Are there any more questions or comments before we send this off to finance?
I just want to say, I think you've done an outstanding job.
Oh.
The enthusiasm and the dedication to get things done here, it's just turned this community around, between you and Mitch.
Thank you. It's really just a wonderful community to work with.
And
Everyone is very positive. I really
I'm sure
appreciate
you
it.
put in a lot of extra hours beyond what your contract is for.
But it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
That's so funny. All right, so I'm gonna make a motion to reinstate the rules. And do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, and then all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstain? All right, motion passes. All right, so, I move to send, so there weren't any amendments, correct? Real quick?
Correct.
Okay, there were just some notes to make.
Other than the management, we're not gonna do the management report.
Yeah, but that wasn't included, that was just to ask if we wanted to
Oh, it was
include it.
extra, okay.
Yeah,
We wanted to communicate that to finance, and Alexa and I can do that, and you can do that.
Yeah.
I move to send Jennifer Spidle's contract proposal as is to the finance committee for review and recommendation, for review and recommendations to be returned to the board no later than Thursday, February 20th.
Second.
26.
No, this is for the finance will get it back to the board.
Oh, okay.
So we can
Sorry.
look at it, and
Yep.
then we'll have our meeting on
Oh,
26th.
okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, you're good. So do you have a second?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, any discussion? And then call for the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? Were you an aye, Deborah?
Yeah, I'm an aye, sorry.
No, you're good. All right, motion passes. And then I have an action item that all board members review the return contract proposal with finances reviews and recommendations before our next special meeting on the 26th. So kind of maybe redundant, but just wanted to put it on there.
All right.
All right, so we're at new business B, board candidate application and code of conduct. I move to postpone this item, or the item board candidate application and code of conduct to our next regular meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Motion passes. And then I have an action item that all board members submit any drafts 2 weeks. It's not an amendment, it's an action item. That all board members submit drafts 2 weeks before the regular board meeting for distribution and review before our next meeting. So when you guys do look at it and you review it, if you have any notes, I'll make a new draft, make sure it gets to the board so we can look at it. So now we're on letter C for new business, fee schedule evaluation. I move to suspend the rules to have a motion on the table before discussion. And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Yes.
I don't have my notes for this. Is there, all in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Oh man, Rachel gave me notes the other day and I think I might have misplaced them.
Notes on this.
Yes, on
Fee
that.
schedule.
Oh, it's in my thing. Okay,
Yes,
sorry, I forgot I have a board packet. Oh, they're in my board packet.
they're in your board packet.
No,
You
no,
were
no.
prepared.
All right, so the discussion for this is we had, the last board meeting, the board was confused if we should be selling our rules and regs, all our covenants books, the ones that look like those little yellow books, these, to members. And so that's why we're having this discussion, so we are going to talk about maybe some unnecessary fees we have in Clearwood.
Can I, tell me when we're ready.
Yeah, so the first thing we're gonna look at is, we have just some, I guess, maybe typos or things that need to be adjusted in our fee schedule, or not maybe fee schedule, but our assessment fees and fines that we have listed on our website and maybe in our books. But, so for water utility costs, when we get to other cost fees, it says disconnect, reconnect, and that should say each. So there's not confusion that it's $50 for both services, it's $50 for disconnect, $50 for reconnect. Sorry, I flustered into the restroom, I didn't notice that. I think we should pause. So we're gonna recess for a moment, I guess. I don't know how I need to say that.
Personal privilege.
Personal privilege. I'm gonna take a pause, you guys. Does anyone wanna get something to drink or water or coffee or anything? How you doing, LaDonna? Get some water. So Deborah, do you have the ability
Yes.
to be on your computer to look at our fee schedule online?
No, I cannot. I have a copy in my board packet and I do have books with me. I can
Oh.
look at the red book.
Oh, okay, perfect. Sorry, I didn't think about the board packet.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, board packet, we're on the utility costs.
Okay.
So, we're gonna, are we good?
Sorry, water utility costs?
Yes, so we're
Yeah,
gonna,
I do see a mistake. Sorry, Madam, let's back up a bit. I see that it's negative. Future reserve assessment, 0, that's not correct. It's $16.
back it up. Yes. Well, no, it is though for
Website.
this year. Remember?
For this year, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for 220,
Yeah.
you're right. Okay, sorry, but it'll go back to
Yeah,
15 next year. Got it. Oh, I forgot about that. Thank you.
You should probably do that.
We're back in session.
So now we're back to utilities. Sorry,
Yes.
I just, not used to that.
Yeah, so that will change next year. I mean, or we'll, maybe,
To go back, yes. We have to
Yeah.
remember to change it on the website next year.
yeah. Well, we will, cause the budget will,
Well, and
we'll see
remember
what
to,
happens. Okay, so, so water utility cost, disconnect, reconnect fee, we were told that we should probably have the word each there, so there isn't confusion. Does anyone disagree
Right.
with that? Okay,
I'm sorry, each what?
so other cost fees, it says disconnect, reconnect fee,
Uh-huh.
and there's a $50 fee for each, disconnect and reconnect.
Okay,
And so
for
we,
each.
yeah, so we don't have that
Absolutely.
clarified, and that's like a discussion point in the office where they have to kind of argue the points, we should just add that for them.
Okay.
If you go down to member service fees, we have these fees for maps, colored maps, and the booklet fee. And I guess the discussion was, they're not charging for them, so maybe we shouldn't be charging for them. So what do we think about that?
I have a comment, may I?
Yes.
Okay, my thought was, we don't charge for residents. I mean, but we want renters to have the books really bad. Coming from someone on violations, it's really good if renters also have the books. So maybe the solution here, either take the fee away totally, or, because it does cost us to make them, but make it just for non-residents. If you live here, you get them free. If you don't live here, in other words, a realtor can't come out here and ask for 50 books, but a resident, anybody living in the community gets it free. I don't know, just food for thought.
So right now we're talking about, we're kind of have a lump sum conversation. So maps, black and white, maps, colored, booklet fee. So do you guys want to have the discussion for each separate one? My notes just have them all marked. So should we charge $1 for black and white maps? Because right now, I could be wrong, but I feel like they're not, and that's why we're having the discussion. They just haven't been for a long time. So, but we have.
But is that in addition to the one that's included in the initial packet?
We're gonna talk about the packets, and the packets are different discussion,
Okay.
the next page.
So this is additional
they're,
maps.
they're kind of the same though, because a new member packet gets the books and they get a map. So I think it's the same conversation. Are we gonna charge them, like you get a new member packet, anything above and beyond that would be charged, but any resident or owner can get they get a new member packet. So you're a new owner, you get a new member packet. Here's your renter, you get a new renter packet or
New resident packet.
yeah, and then anything above and beyond that, like Deborah said, if your realtor wants 50 bucks, we'll pay for them.
So keep the fees, but we need to start charging. So I think, I'm gonna wait for Jennifer, but is there a problem accepting that money if they're not members and we don't have a way to take money? Is that the problem? I wish Rachel was here, because now I can't remember.
I can't speak to
I
why
think
they haven't been charging
It's really
them.
more about non-residents than it is anybody.
I feel like too, can we even accept the money? 'Cause I know we even have problem taking payment for swim lessons from renters last year,
Because they don't have an account.
because they don't have an account.
That would be a
Which is
question
good
for.
to Jennifer. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah,
that's
but
exactly why
people
we're
could
talking
just
about
come in
this.
and pay. They've done it for many years.
But we don't
We
take,
charge 50 cents for a map.
but we don't also take credit cards in the office as well. Like we have this whole,
Oh, that's probably.
There's a
There's
whole
been
issue.
changes, yeah.
we're
Is Jennifer still in the room?
Yep.
She can answer it.
She's
Hi.
back.
So, we're talking about, fees that we have in the office, like for maps and booklets. And so one of the things, I wanna say, the reason we're in discussion is because they're not charging for them, and I think that has to do with, we don't have a way to accept money, and we can't take credit card payments. Is that true?
Yeah, so we can continue to take credit card payments through QuickBooks, but there is a 3% fee. So if it was the board's decision that we wanted to accept just small fees for like this for credit card payments, but not the large dues to have that, then we could do that. We can also accept credit card payments over the phone through QuickBooks and charge a 3% fee. So that way we can, so I would like that added into the fee schedule, that if someone phones in and they want to pay via credit card, we can run their card, but we'll charge them 3%, which covers our cost.
So there is a service charge if paying by credit card at the very last
Oh,
point.
great, okay.
Does that need to be clarified by phone?
Oh,
Or,
There it is.
Yeah, it, like legally can only be by phone.
okay.
We can't do it if they're here on site. It's against the credit card company terms and conditions.
So that does need to be clarified, that it's by
So
phone.
if we accept the credit card
Could we
for,
pay cash only?
So we can take cash. We have a laptop set up and people can run their cards through Mutual of Omaha Bank on the laptop and it's secure.
To make $1, like say someone comes in and goes, I
Uh-huh.
wanna buy a map,
Uh-huh,
and they wanna buy 2 maps for
Uh-huh.
$2.
uh-huh.
Do we have a way to take that payment
They would have to,
without them being members?
without them being members, we would not have a way to take that payment. So we could do that through
You're right,
QuickBooks.
Linda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So we could
we could do it through QuickBooks and it'll be a 3% fee, but we can't charge them for it if they're here giving their cards.
but the community takes a 3% hit on
Uh-huh.
a $2 charge.
Yeah.
Which, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not too much, but.
yeah, but it's a lot of
6 cents.
extra
Yeah.
work.
But I mean, last year the credit card fees were $18,000, which is why we moved to have the Mutual of Omaha pay, because that's gonna save $18,000. But if you're only taking payments for non-members or for, you know, items that are under $30 or something, then, because that's the permit fee here, you know, maybe that's reasonable and the board can make that decision and we'll just have a really small amount of credit card fees. But having all the dues run through with the credit cards is so expensive. $18,000 is a lot of money. It just seems like
Yeah.
it's going out the door.
Yeah. But it's, I think we've resolved the bigger issues.
Mhm.
It's the small issues that we're discussing right now.
Mm-hmm.
The $1 and $2
So
sorts
I
of
guess
things,
the
or
thing
even
is-
gate cards.
Mm-hmm. Gate cards are
$10.
$10. Mm-hmm.
But that can be added to an account if the person's a member. It can be added to their account in
Mhm.
QuickBooks.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so it's just.
So it's only for non-residents,
Mhm.
non-members, and our concern is a realtor who might come in and want 10
Mhm.
copies of the bylaws
yeah.
or something. And
Uh-huh.
can we collect that and how?
Yeah, so we could collect it through the QuickBooks merchant account, and then we would just train staff that that's what it's for. It's for non-members who are coming in and they're just buying small things, and then we would incur very little fees. And we actually get some money back now with accepting payments through Mutual of Omaha. They have it's called a revenue share, and so when people make their credit card payments, we get a small percentage of that, and so the income from that should offset the small expenses from this, and they should cancel each other out. And the revenue share is something that you get, and we opted for the minimal fees to members, but the minimal fees to members does give us a revenue share, which is why I opt out.
So, is it my understanding that we're comfortable with the fee because it's small, but we want to just charge for non-members? When we say non-members, we mean anyone that's not living in Clearwater.
Non-resident.
Thank you,
Non-members
non-residents.
or residents, or
So-
non-residents.
So non-residents. So we would charge for non-residents.
But a member who owns
Yeah.
property but
Yes,
doesn't live
right,
here,
remote.
No, but they're still a resident, they have property here. Like anyone that, if you own
They're
or
a member.
you live here. I guess, well, cause
Yes,
there's
you own
renters.
or live in Clearwood, yeah.
okay,
The
they're considered
resident
residents?
is physically at the,
But she's right.
I think it wouldn't hurt to just clarify.
Okay,
Yeah.
so owner
I agree.
or renter.
Or resident?
You can't say resident because we just
Owner
said
or
that.
resident, because somebody can have it.
A renter is a
Owner
resident.
or resident, okay, got it.
I mean, a renter would be a resident.
Owner. We're just gonna
Right.
clarify that the charges are for anyone that's not an owner
Did you?
Or
I mean,
or
a-
a resident.
it could just be if you
Or not
say
resident,
under
right.
$10. You know, if it's under $10, we can accept it here. Otherwise, if you're or you know, if you're a member and it's over $10, we'd like you to pay through the Mutual of Omaha. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so what number would we want to use? Is $10 your recommended number so we would ask members that do come in that we would like you to use Mutual of Omaha and not the
Yep.
QuickBooks merchant account?
Yep, because this is so expensive. And I think the members can understand that we're just trying to save $18,000.
But so this is tricky though, because if they come in to buy a book, an extra book,
Mhm.
we're gonna say go home and, well, I guess they can log in, but what if they're not comfortable logging in?
They can log in here, I suppose, and get some help with
But
it.
there's, I guess people
But
have not
most
been
people like
receptive
to do
of
that.
it.
How about I take this back to staff and write it up with Rachel because
Yeah.
she's
Okay.
talking to all the members and knows what their concerns are and what kinds of transactions are run through and then I can work with her to get something written
Okay.
out.
And,
a
and
good
if
number.
it's a rarity that someone comes
Uh-huh.
in and wants a $1 or $2 item, then maybe we just write it off
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
give
so-
it away, but.
Yeah, but
but we wanna-
let me work with
yeah,
Rachel to
let's- yeah.
get this credit card issue clarified so that way we all have clear direction on what we think
Yeah.
we should do.
So
Okay.
I
Okay.
like this idea, so I'd like us to make all our notes and I'd like you to take our
Mhm.
notes
Yep,
and then you
that'd
guys
be
can
great.
come back with a proposal and then we
Thank
can
you.
vote on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the one would be the disconnect,
Okay, can I
reconnect.
Go ahead, finish and I have a question.
So I'm just gonna, so we're gonna do each for the disconnect, reconnect fee for water. And then right now, we'd like the member service fees to reflect that they will be, billed to people that are non-owners, non-residents. And then we'd like to have an idea of what cash amount we would ask people to do Mutual of Omaha. Okay, and then, Deborah, what was your question?
Okay, it's kind of a question slash comment. So just for perspective as we consider this whole situation with the fees. So Thurston County, the bus, you know what's that called, that bus service in Thurston County, Sound Transit, whatever it's called?
Mhm.
This year, they stopped, the buses are free because it costs them more to collect the fee than the fees generated.
Mhm.
So just know that
we were
Can we
having,
do that?
yeah,
I just want you to have perspective.
yeah, and that's why we're having the conversation is because of that.
Yes,
because-
exactly.
yeah. So
Yes,
the,
exactly.
so when we go to the next page on the new member packet, so the problem here is, Rachel says we shouldn't be selling them to non-residents, non-owners, because what happens is, realtors will give them they'll come in and ask for one, and then they can pay for it, and then they'll give it to whoever their prospective seller, and then maybe they buy, but they don't come in and register, and it helps them come into the office and register as a renter or an owner.
Right.
So I think that's, yeah, let's not sell the packets, the actual, like, welcome to the neighborhood packets. Like, they can come and buy a map and a book, sure, but they can't have the new member packets unless you come in and you say, I just moved into the neighborhood. I feel like
Right,
that
you're a
makes sense.
resident or an owner.
Because that's a problem with getting people registered, especially renters, because we don't have a clear definition of who is renting or not.
Right.
Yes.
Wouldn't you want to know what the new member packet is before you moved in? I would.
Not the whole packet, I think.
Yeah.
So, well, it would
Yes,
be
you could.
nice.
You want them to read the books before they buy.
But
That's
yeah, the
true.
books, yes, but the whole packet?
Maybe not the whole packet. Ooh. Would we be able to grab one real quick and look at it?
A
If
packet?
we make the realtor pay for it, she'll only do it, or he'll only do it.
Is it necessary if we're
because
gonna just
I don't know.
kick this back to staff?
No, so let's have the notes say, that, is there a version of the new member packet, like, can we give like a portion of the packet, but enough to where they still have to come into the office and register properly?
Well, they have to come in and get their gate cards, I would think.
No, because the owners give them the gate cards, owners give the renters the gate
Yeah,
cards.
the owner does it to them.
Oh.
Yeah, they really, and that's what I said, there is a problem, sometimes they physically don't come into the office,
Mhm.
and then we have to catch up. But yeah. So that's something to consider, yeah.
If I may, there's probably a location on the website that we could create for prospective buyers, so that way you would cut costs on printing.
And you can tell
It
the
would save
realtors
time
to
and
go there.
exactly, there would be a link on the website where realtors could go specifically to answer those questions. And I think we could probably compile some of those questions, maybe see how you guys would like to answer them. Or if we could draft something and then submit it to you guys for review prior to us creating a page. But that would be my recommendation. It's something that we've done before, and so I think that might be a little bit more beneficial than charging for
I've-
the
the
packet.
I've actually,
It's just that, in general.
I've
I saw that.
actually, when I was looking at places with homeowners associations, the listings of current properties for sale were also listed in that prospective new owner's place,
Gotcha.
which
Okay.
would be a service to the community.
No, it's definitely, and I like the idea, but I feel like we could really just say, like,
Go
Go
to
look
this
at the
spot
website.
on the website, like the
Like-
specific spot that just says like
There's,
for
like-
realtors or for, prospective.
Prospective new owners,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'd be happy to take that back and talk to Mitch, and we can talk about drafting something.
Okay.
do you have a question specific to this conversation?
Do we know what those booklets and packets cost to manufacture?
We print them in-house, and so I don't think we have an exact cost. I think it's, we buy paper and use ink. I mean, our copier is not necessarily cheap. I wanna say that it's kind of ridiculous. What is the cost, do you know?
I don't know offhand.
Well,
It's a monthly lease and a per page print.
the reason for the question is, you can set up the HOA website for them to have access, members only have access on the website, and it'll eliminate all of the work, all of the copy, all of the paperwork, all of the handout, and all of this discussion. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, that's what I think actually
But
we're kind of
it's-
looking at.
The books and everything, all the forms, all of that is already on the website. It doesn't, I mean, it's already there, and it's not a private access either. Anybody can see our covenants, our bylaws, our rules and regulations. The directory of resolutions, that's
The
already
maps
on
there.
the website. All the maps are already on there.
Mhm.
I don't think adding the new member packets is a bad idea. However, there is information like sign up for the newsletter. Well, people who don't live here shouldn't be signed up for the newsletter, so I would not want to add that onto the website. But I mean, you make a very good point that it could just all be
But the
electronic.
newsletter is accessible through the website too, isn't it? Don't
You
post
can
the
sign
website?
up for it, but you have to put in all of your information, like your lot and
Oh,
division.
okay.
It's not just an automatic you.
So that would give you tracking for the renters that you're lacking.
I mean, the owners have to register the renters, and sometimes they don't do that because there's a fee associated with it. So sometimes they just have renters go in and out of their homes, and we don't know any different. So, but all right. So I feel like, so that would be a direction to give you guys, and so we're not gonna go there, but it's an idea. We're gonna float that idea, and then we'll get back to you. It's a good idea. Thank you.
Sure.
And then another thing would be the next note we wanted to talk about was lien fees, and so right now there's only like it just says lien fees 150, but we would need to do it for take on and take off. So there would be the both.
It's charged each time.
Yep, and then I guess at the bottom the service charge would just be added by phone, so it's clarified.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so yeah, that'd be great if.
And is that a good number? Ask you a question about the number for the lien fee. So it seems like a reasonable number to me if we're doing it internally because you've got, staff time plus actual, unless it's a really, I think it seems only like a couple pages, so it wouldn't be like, but if we're having the attorney do it, it's gotta cost more, right?
Right now it's gonna cost more, but right now we're not doing them.
Well, the attorney is when he has to.
But do they?
That's what you said, there's a few that we have to, not many, handful or less, but every now and then we have to.
If a property's changing ownership or something?
No, if we go in, if we put a lien against the house, like say for violations or not paying their dues.
Or for
things
not
like
paying
that.
their assessment,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. Okay, and then we don't take it off if they pay up? Is that currently what's happening?
Mm-hmm. That's the problem.
That when they do pay up, we take it off.
No, we
No,
haven't been.
Unless
That's
the
problem.
property is changing hands, then you need to clear the title.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess I'm just asking, because the question is, is 150 the right number? It seems reasonable to me if we're doing it internally. I don't know if we're gonna, if we're gonna continue, maybe we should revisit this later, if we're gonna decide how we're gonna do liens.
Okay.
Later, because we're not doing it this year.
Oh gosh, I don't wanna lose that discussion.
It won't be lost.
I know, so, but it's
To
kind of
come
hard
up
to
for the
decide,
budget.
we're gonna do it
It's gonna
internally,
come up-
our
so it's
goal
gonna
is
come
to
up in
county
June?
legal loan, we just
Okay.
eat that bit of
Seems a long
legal
time
fee right
ago.
now, but like Jennifer said, it's not often right now, it's just when we have to. And we have had a few,
So
we have to.
she's right though, so.
We're doing the bulk of them later when we can afford it, staff time.
So like right now, we're, attempting to finalize our compliance program and that's gonna
Oh,
include,
true.
and that's gonna include putting liens on the
Yeah.
house, and Deborah makes a good point, and then from now to June, if we implement the compliance program, and then we do need to put a lien on someone's home, because they've done this, so it's February, by the time we get it done, it'll be like March, April, and then it's gonna be May, June, so they won't even get to the 120 days of putting a lien on our house. So yeah, this is kind of a redundant conversation.
Mhm.
So yeah,
It's a next year
it is a next
conversation.
budget.
Where-
Yeah,
Next
so we
budget
won't even,
cycle.
from now to June, we don't have the time to put a lien on someone's home.
To deal with it, right?
Yeah, so, yeah, okay,
So let's keep it on our radar.
okay, so, right now we are in, open discussion. Did anyone have any more questions about the fee schedule? Okay, so we're gonna, make a motion to come out of, suspension of the rule. And then, do I have a second?
Second,
And then all in favor?
aye.
Any opposed,
Aye.
abstained? And then, so I'm gonna have an action item that I guess we'll ask Mitch if Rachel and Jennifer can take our notes and propose a new, assessment fee and fine schedule.
So ask if he's okay with that task,
Yes.
or task him with our review.
Task him with that, thank you.
I'll make sure that gets brought back to him.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, that was fun. Okay, so we're on new business D, RCW, dealing with committees. I move to postpone item RCW 24.03.115 to our next regular meeting. Do I have a second?
Second,
Any
You have a
discussion?
second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstained? The motion passes. Am I going too fast for you, Emily? So now we're on new business E, resolution 2010 0202 regarding board directors on ACC. I move to postpone, the resolution 2010-0202 regarding, the BOD on ACC.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Well, that's just gotta be folded into the discussion on RC 24.
It is, it's
Yeah.
all one and
It's all one.
and it's gonna be part of two if you,
It's part of the,
yeah,
board
yeah.
representation on committees.
Yes, but it still should be separate, cause the resolution is
Right.
an actual past resolution.
But can we?
Right.
When we do put that on the next agenda, can we have it where it goes in order of the discussion though? I feel like one might be ahead of the other. Does that make sense? We'll talk about it later.
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
Sure,
Yeah.
I mean,
I
yes,
have
the discussion may
on
be
that,
tied
but yes,
in, but the resolution, because it's an actual resolution, needs
Right.
to be handled separately.
Right.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I understand.
But they flow from one to the
Yeah,
other.
however, I don't know if I have to look at it again, not in this moment, but yes, we have a motion on the table, we're in discussion. Do we have any more discussion about
Okay, I have
tabling?
discussion.
Okay, so the motion is to table it to the next meeting, but yes, go.
Okay, the discussion is this, I think that we might, in the view of this, consider adding a red book change, regarding that. And there's several, we saw several, and so at some point we might wanna,
Oh, yeah.
it's gonna be part of a bigger.
Yes, because I went through and I did find another, so what we have in our packet is just operating resolution, and I found another operating resolution that was dated 2 years prior in '08, but neither of them are reflected in the bylaws or the rules or regs.
Right,
That's why I didn't print the one that
yeah, we gotta
superseded.
fix that, so it might
I
be
was
part
just
of a
trying to find
laundry
anything.
list of things. We'll
That's
see.
all I found. And yeah, and I went through every board packet and I went through everything and couldn't find anything. So sorry, because we were talking about it, so I dug again. So yeah, that's not good, and yes, we'll need to reflect that in our books.
And just a point on that, in that when we search for things, there's another place that I realized the other day that we're not looking. A lot of stuff from about, I would say 2015 or 14 forward, got just put on the server too. And then we had hard copies, but also digital on the server, and if you can't find a hard copy, it might not be a bad idea to search the server.
Okay, so Ashley made a point that we're not having a germane conversation to the motion right now.
No, we're not, I just want to get that in context of all the.
Oh, no, you're right, and you're right, and we're gonna work that out. But so I'm gonna call for the question, everyone in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed or abstain? Motion passes. All right, so we're to, section F of new business, March board meeting date change. I move to reschedule our March 21st board meeting to March 28th at 9 a.m. at request from management. Do I have a second?
Yes, you got a second date on the table, let me just check my schedule, 28th?
Well, hang on,
What's
so we're gonna.
a date in there, so I couldn't tell.
Okay, we're in discussion, and so, I'm not necessarily in agreement with this date change. I feel like there might have been a miscommunication of what will happen on this date, so Ashley and I had different ideas, so I think somewhere.
I'm brought here to ask for this specifically, right? So we have conflicting schedules. So we talked about it, Mitch, Jennifer, myself, had a conversation, and we'd like to do March 28th, which would then, it'd be a board meeting, we'd have the board meeting, and then afterward, we could have a collective finance and board meet to do the capital prioritization ranking training, and we can do it all at the same time. I know before it was discussed having it separated, but I think we kind of talked it over and found that it would be far more beneficial for everyone to have the exact same training at the exact same time, ask maybe similar questions, or get a better understanding overall for everyone. So that was the intent.
So let me back up.
Sure.
So you have a scheduling, and Mitch has a scheduling conflict
We
on
have
the
scheduling
14th.
conflicts, yes.
So that's the first item. But my understanding of that meeting was we were to get training and then actually do the prioritization that day.
Okay.
That's gonna be a very long day if there's a board meeting first.
So I think the change would then be to do the training, and then we would have to do the capital ranking separately. So there would be we would then apply it at a separate meeting.
So
after following.
this
So we're
is,
keeping the March 14th?
no, so we don't know
For the
so
prioritization.
we don't know. So this is this is what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Finance has set a date for the 14th for training where the board was invited. I feel like finance thought, everyone on finance agreed to that date and was good, that was a good date. The board was invited, I don't think anyone necessarily responded. There wasn't a calendar, thing, but I did shoot an email. So we'll check on that, but the 28th doesn't work for me personally. It doesn't.
Okay.
So I know that's not just my problem. If everyone else can make it, that's good. And she's right. It's gonna make for a really long day, which I'm not necessarily opposed to. But I feel like before we make any decisions, and we're missing half our board today, we need to have a discussion when everyone's involved. So finance is gonna meet soon. So I think we should come up with days of. So is it just the 21st that's not good? Is the 14th still good?
No, I believe the 14th is it. I don't believe.
It's a Saturday before
Yeah,
the 21st.
so I think that that's part of the issue is that we're not available
So
On the
that
14th,
day.
but what about the 21st?
That one I would have to
We're not
double check.
available.
We're not
Yeah,
available on the
that's our
21st.
regular.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I
So-
think it's,
Yeah, well, I really didn't want the 28th, because that's my birthday.
That's my dad's 60th birthday, and so
Yeah.
I said,
Okay, the 29th of, leap day, the 29th of February?
no, we're
No.
talking about March.
Yeah.
I feel like I just yelled at her. No, so I would be open to the 4th of April, because, I mean,
I think the 4th of April is not good for me.
but this is the thing, I don't think we can make the decision today. I think
Okay.
we're gonna have this go to finance and have them tell us what days are good, and just, and then like
and do a
multiple days.
collaborative training.
Yep,
We're
and
not
then,
available on
and-
the 4th of April.
you're not either? Uh-oh.
So maybe
we'll
we
have
need
to
to
do
So
know
basically,
when
it's
you're
the
available.
28th or not the foreseeable future. Is that,
Well, I know that we're not available on the 4th of April.
well, that's fine. I just, instead of,
Are Sundays
no, we're not
better?
available, no, we're not available, no, we're not
No, but
available.
seriously, would
Like the
Sundays-
28th works.
The
The 28th works.
And that's pretty much the next,
If you want it on a weekend. the
If you want it
28th.
on
Like a Sunday afternoon,
Yeah, but like, what if we did just push it to Sunday? I mean, it would, the 29th
afternoon,
work?
like,
I could,
Would the 22nd work?
I'm not sure.
Would the
I-
15th
I'm not
work?
gonna be at a board meeting on the 21st and then a meeting on the 22nd.
Yeah.
Because we just agree with Alexa that having a board meeting and this is probably not ideal. So now you're saying keep the board meeting on the 21st and then have another meeting that's gonna take a good chunk of the day.
It,
on the
it breaks,
22nd?
it breaks it up, and then we don't have another
can I
weekend
make a
that
comment
we're,
about, I have a comment, a little insight as far as and Ashley and Jennifer, you can back me up on this. As far as the comment about doing the prioritization and the reserve training in the same day. I've done it kind of in the past, not done by Jennifer or Mitch, but, it kind of goes together. As you train and you learn how to
You
use it, how to
apply.
use a spreadsheet, you kind of prioritize, and you can easily prioritize in that process. Am I correct, Jennifer?
That's correct.
Yes, that was what my thought was, that
It really kind of
we were
better together.
using
Really? I
the
mean, it's
actual
better
material to
together, really.
practice.
You learn more.
does the,
Why go back and do it all over again? You know, when you see it, you'll understand it. You go, oh, I
Yeah.
get what they're doing.
does the 29th work?
I can
A
take that.
Sunday.
I can take
Are
that.
we, are we
I don't
saying
We're
we're
not gonna
not,
be able to make a decision today, I
I-
think is the
I know, but,
outcome of this.
are we, so,
Well-
we'd rather do it all in one day board meeting and training, cause I don't.
No, no.
Okay.
Well, I'm
No, but I
saying
don't
not
want it to be an
coordinating in one
entire
day. I'm
weekend
saying that
either.
Training and
Bust it out.
prioritization in
Yeah,
one day,
yeah.
board meeting another day. That's my thought.
Yeah, no, I think we agree that we wanna do board meetings and the training on separate days. It's just the deciding if we wanna have them in the same weekend. I prefer just to knock it out and then have a full weekend to myself, but we will, so
I didn't
finance,
know this.
so chair or liaison, you guys need to bring, so when you guys talk about the proposal, after you talk about the proposal, just write down every single date that you guys all can meet at once. Or who can, you know what I mean, and then the board will do the same on the 26th, and then we'll figure it out.
Might be easier to say the date you can't be there.
Whatever works, just you guys come up with the calendar, just mark it out, I don't know, cause that's a lot of people to organize,
I think
we'll do our best. Sorry.
I think it's actually more important to ask them when they can actually
Yeah,
be there
that's
to
what I was
facilitate
thinking.
that.
Give us some
I was
choices
gonna
of
suggest,
versus everybody
we'll,
with days.
we'll
You
collaborate
only
on some
have
dates
one, you say you
and
only have one day.
we'll collaborate on dates
Thank
and we
you.
will submit it
Okay.
to you guys, and then you can determine what dates work
Okay.
best for you.
Okay.
And are we open,
There we go.
are we open to evenings? Like, what if we moved our board
I
meeting to
am.
an evening
Well-
and then we had training on a Saturday or something? I mean, the board can talk about that on the 26th, but
I'm
so
fine
maybe
with
we
that.
can
I
just,
I
okay.
don't think it's fair to have everyone to spend an entire weekend here in the office. But that's
No,
just my
I hear
opinion.
you, but then it's like back-to-back weekends, and I'd rather just.
That's why I said I'm fine with a weekday for the board meeting and then have
Okay.
that on the weekend.
Okay.
That's fine.
So, yeah, so please get us dates.
We will
We're
get you
gonna-
dates and we'll make a
We will
recommendation.
figure it out.
Mhm.
Okay, so right
Okay.
now, so I had, the motion on the table is to move the meeting, so that didn't work out, so I'm gonna, you guys can vote to fail it, that'd be great. It'll be way
Okay.
easier.
All right.
So I call for the question, all in favor? All opposed? Yay!
Yes.
Any abstain? Okay, motion fails. And then, there's action items for finance to discuss possible, what would be good for them, for management to propose dates, and for the board to as well talk about on the 26th. Okay, perfect.
We'll get that to you as soon as possible so you guys can determine when it's.
That'd be awesome. Thank you. Okay, so now we're on G, maintenance requests. So I move to postpone both the Madrona Amphitheater and the Windy Beach bathroom items to our next meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
And any discussion? All in favor? Opposed, abstain?
Question, just a quick
well-
question, if I may ask. Is that inappropriate?
Well, yeah, but is it quick?
Yeah, I'll wait until,
Then, okay, yeah, because we'll have open forum.
okay.
Otter Beach. We already moved that in the agenda, okay, perfect. So now we're on H, Finance Committee recommendations. To task the GM to collect engineer bids to assess Blue Lake bridges. I move to task CCA's GM to collect engineer bids to access Blue Lake bridges as well as the wooden bridges in the cove near Otter Beach. Do I have a second?
Second.
So we're in discussion, so just real quick, Rampart Bridge, the one that goes completely over, the big one that goes over Blue Lake, has been closed. A professional technically hasn't reviewed it, but it was felt unsafe, so it was closed. We had, the arch bridge recently was damaged, but was repaired. We have 6 bridges on Blue Lake. A lot of members feel like the handrails are loose. And as well, if you go to Otter Beach, there are the two wooden docks that don't connect. There was discussion that they lived their useful life. Again, I don't believe an actual professional reviewed them. I mean, besides for maintenance, past maintenance staff. The never was brought to the membership to vote to remove that amenity. So we're going to, so finance made the recommendation that all Blue Lake be reviewed by an engineer, and since the discussion, so the Otter Beach removal of the docks was brought into discussion when the whole retaining wall project was dealt with and the new easy dock was put in. So I feel like we should just include those bridge docks into the engineer scope of work, so we can just see if they do need to be removed or not. And then if so, or brought up to repair, and we can either make the decision or bring it to the membership for all of, all of
Right.
it. So that's where all that came from.
Okay.
You guys,
So
sorry.
making
Yep.
that part, sorry, we're still in discussion, correct? So we'll
Yes.
make the Otter Beach evaluation part of the cost that we're gonna ask the engineers to give us bids for, correct?
Yeah,
If I'm
so,
hearing you correctly?
it'll be all Blue Lake bridges, including the 2 Otter Beach wooden bridges, or
Right,
docks.
docks.
Right,
Yes,
whatever they, yeah.
Docks.
they're docks, yeah. Yes. Do any other directors
They
have?
were bridges, now they're docks.
They were?
No, they're just docks.
Yes, they were.
There
No,
was a
no, let
bridge?
me explain, there's history here, guys.
Oh.
That, believe it or not, that was connected. The
Yes, it
two
was.
sides
Yes.
were connected,
Oh.
had an arch. You go up one, you'd walk over the arch, and you'd go down the other. The arch was there so that boats could get in to that lagoon, I'll
That'd
call
be
it
fun
there,
to
which is
do.
really kind of like a little
That'd be
boat
The
corral. That
arch
was
was
the
taken
intent.
away and stolen
The arch
somewhere
got
else.
taken down, and that's why it's now docks. They were bridge, it was a bridge.
Yeah. That'd be fun to do again.
It would be awesome.
That would be
Yeah.
fun, 'cause it's so odd. It's just like the dock to nowhere. Like,
I know, and it feels unsafe when you're on it. You're thinking, know, anyway, whatever.
Ashley, did you have a comment?
I did. It's more from the general manager,
Oh,
and
perfect.
he was recommending that if you're going to look at some of the bridges, to look at them all. If you're going to bring an engineer in,
You mean like all of Clearwood? Or just, because Blue Lake right now is all bridges?
so it's all of them, all in
Mhm.
Clearwood,
Yeah, the finance, that was the recommendation from finance.
that they look at all of them.
Mhm.
Okay, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that was his. Yeah, he just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure that all bridges were included, because if
Yeah.
we're going to bring an
All
engineer out here,
bridges on Blue Lake.
oh, I think
Which
it's
includes the
But-
inlet bridge.
But right now, so,
any other bridges that.
But there is a bridge at Rykle Beach, for example.
but
But
there's,
it's, you know, it's fine. I mean,
So I think it was just to make
Ooh,
sure that
that's a
they're,
good
that they
point.
are compliant,
I
like
mean,
if you're
we
gonna bring an
could-
engineer out to include all of your bridges, to make sure that, yes, they are compliant, yes, they are safe. If you're gonna do one portion, you should really
so
do
there's
them all,
some
right?
economies involved in getting it all done at once. Is that what he's saying?
No, it's bigger than that. May I make a comment?
yes,
Okay, here's the thing, there's a liability to not doing it, because Rykle Beach, I mean, the bridge on Clear Lake there by that other boat corral has like, have you ever noticed the cement at the bottom of it, how often you walk, like all of you walk on it? It was rotted. I mean, there was no support on that one end. They did put that cement thing, replaced the board, you know, and here's, to get back to Ashley's point, let's say we do the Blue Lake bridges in Otter, and we move forward on whatever they say. But then we don't do Rykle, something happens at Rykle, and, you know, there's a lot, to me, I see a potential liability there. You checked all the others, you know what I mean? You see what I'm saying?
I also feel like we shouldn't,
Well, there's
Could
bridges
do
at
one or do
Longmire
one,
too.
do them all or none, really. I'm talking, there's the one at Longmire too,
well, because what happens is,
for a long time.
what happens if we look at every single bridge, and every single bridge gets told, you gotta close it down, and then we can't afford to fix them all, and then we have a bunch of closed bridges in Clearwood, like, what if
Yeah,
we
have
just
to
did
fix
one step
them.
at a
Yeah, we
time?
can't afford to fix
Like-
them. We'd have to ask the membership, you know, what are you gonna do, give us the money to do it right, or let's get rid of them? You're right, we do open that door by doing this, 100%, we open the can of worms.
I kind of want to do it in two phases. Let's do
Yeah.
Blue Lake now and the others
Yeah, and the
as
reason,
part of a future project.
I do
Let's
too,
document that we,
and the reason why Otter Beach is because there's discussion that they are unsafe, and so they should be removed, but are they, or can they be brought up to repair? So I feel like all the other bridges, there hasn't been a conversation about their, I guess until Deborah brought up that maybe Rykle Beach Bridge might be unsafe, but so.
yeah,
Well,
we'll see it when you
if
go
we
there.
look at the reserve study, where are they
Sorry.
in the rotation to get repaired or looked at? I think they're down the road quite a
And
bit.
that's it, what does our reserve study say? Because the thing of with the bridges on Blue Lake, one of them is at the point where it does need to be looked at. And that was one of the
And
other
we
reasons.
will, sorry, but we will address that when we prioritize.
Right.
So-
And we do need maintenance and or Mitch in the room when we do that, because we're gonna need to know status.
So should we wait until we do
Can
the?
I ask how
Yeah.
many additional bridges, cause you keep talking about the additional one on
There's
Rykle,
3,
so there's,
cause it would be, ooh, shoot. There's
Are
the
there
6
any-
on Blue Lake, and then there's
Longmire,
Rykle, and then there's the,
Longmire,
Longmire has like 2 because,
Yeah.
it's like one big one, but there's,
it's multi-level.
yeah, it's like, yeah.
And then there's,
And then there's lots
Otter.
of docks though too, I mean,
and then
well,
there's
the
docks.
easy docks are
and-
different, but the Horseshoe has docks that are similar to Otter Beach docks,
Mhm.
where I think,
right, but we're not talking about
Yeah.
additional docks, we're
Right.
talking about additional bridges.
Well, but
I
Otter
honestly,
is-
I
Right.
agree with Mitch's recommendation, if you're gonna have an engineer, engineers are not cheap, if you're gonna have them come out, it's 3
You do it all at
bridges, why
once.
wouldn't we just do that all at once? That, I agree with that, I would just probably amend this to say 3 engineer bids, that's the only issue I have
Oh,
with
okay.
that, is
and then to
specifically
add
say
all
3.
bridges, not just Blue Lake bridges.
Yeah, you guys don't agree with that, I agree with Mitch, it's 3 additional bridges, I may be inclined to not agree with it if it was 10 additional bridges and all of the bridges were fine and not deemed already a concern, but it's 3 additional bridges, so to me, that's.
I,
just included.
I support what Emily's saying.
so my only question now is, because we're doing capital planning process training, should we put this on hold, do that, and maybe just do like the reserve study bridges? With the engineer bids and like,
Here's
and
the
then have us, you know, and then
Actually,
we
all the
come back.
bridges are on the reserve study, all of them are
Mhm.
on the reserve.
I mean, the ones that
We
are
will
due to be,
reprioritizing all of them.
that's a good point.
Your
Okay,
CPC chair says they're about all on it.
And I like, if we get, if this will not happen in a timely way, but wouldn't it be ideal if we got the bids back and we were actually able to get an engineer out here to evaluate all of them before we do the reserve study prioritization, because then we know, we have an engineer backing up our prioritization.
That's a good point.
okay, so, I'm going to move to amend my motion to say, to task, I'm gonna just reread it all over again. I move to task CCA's GM to collect engineer bids to assess all bridges on Blue Lake and Clear Lake, with addition to the wooden docks in the cove near Otter Beach. But then, sorry, add 3 bids to, and 3 engineer bids, do 3, my bad. I meant to say that, and I forgot. Do you want me to say that again? or-
Yeah.
Okay, so I move to task CCA's GM to collect 3 engineer bids, or at least 3 engineer bids? Or just 3?
At least 3.
At least 3 engineer bids to assess all Blue Lake and Clear Lake bridges, as well in addition to the wooden docks in the cove near, the 2 wooden docks in the cove near Otter Beach.
Well, here, can I make a comment as far as your motion is concerned? I know.
We have to
I don't
second
know
it
if
first.
it's in order or
Okay,
not.
a second.
I'm worried about the term, I'm gonna be petty for a
No,
second,
you're
and I'm not
good.
married to you, but I just wanna say it. Okay, I don't know in the reserve study if that Otter Beach structure is still called a bridge or a dock. In my
How about
mind's eye,
we-
it's a bridge.
How about we just
But
put
we
a
need to look at the
slash there and just say dock and
structure,
or
structure,
Structure?
wooden structure, whatever, it's the only wooden structure.
the
Otter
water wooden structure.
Yeah, it's still called it a dock.
Floating
it's a bridge.
structure.
I don't know that it'll ever make a difference to anybody, but just had to point that out.
I'm pretty sure we've been calling them docks because they're not a bridge. They don't connect. You can't flow over them by any means. You will fall into the water.
X bridge.
I know, what I'm saying is, what does the reserve study say? None of us has it in front of us. It's in the office there, but I don't know if you
Yeah,
want to grab it, it's behind you,
Yeah, let me have to like.
that shelf.
I think it's fine. I
Or
think
it might be in the
if
shelf.
we know what we're talking about, but we can always just say dock or bridge.
Slash bridge at Otter Beach, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, dock slash bridge, yeah, okay.
Are you married to changing it, or can we go with it?
Oh,
Huh?
I'm not married to changing, I just want to point it, I'm not married to changing, I just wanted to point it out.
All right, did
So
you have a second yet?
I did have a second. That's why we were in discussion.
All right,
And so, do we have any more discussion? Okay, so we're gonna call for the question. All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Abstained? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Motion passes. Okay, so we're gonna go to the finance committee. Yes.
The amendment.
Oh, I'm sorry. We voted for the amendment. Now we gotta vote on the main motion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Abstained.
Aye.
Thank you, Emily. You're so good at catching me not doing that.
Good at multitasking.
Okay, so, Finance Committee recommendations 2, Capital Crest Memo, Broche Broom Sweeper Truck for Parts Replacement, Change Order 1. I move to approve the Finance Committee recommendation to approve the reserve allocation not to exceed $5,954.70 to replace a second variable pump on the Broche Broom Sweeper Truck. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Yes, you have discussion?
No, yes, on your, I have a second in you. It's okay.
Okay,
Oh.
thank you. Yes.
Really quick, I just want to make sure that it's in there so that everyone knows the change order was requested. This is a formality to approve it, but the money has been sent for those parts.
Yes, that is true.
Okay.
So, yeah, Mitch said that he went ahead and did that, and
Okay.
if we
And
hadn't approved it, he would have taken full responsibility for his actions, but
Okay.
yes, and it was one,
I just wanted
Aye.
to make sure that that was known, that it was a
Yes.
formality,
Yeah.
because
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think we have to really examine whether we're tying his hands sometimes with red tape.
well, it's not necessarily his hands, but so much any project's hands, where we need to decide that if a project is whatever the first scope of work, if the money, if it's gonna, maybe like a $5,000 window where they can just move ahead with the project.
Right.
But we have to
If it's a
discuss it at
cost
finance.
overrun or some additional need that comes up in the course of a project.
your project contingency.
So we're in the motion. Do we have any more discussion? So call for the question. Oh, yeah, go.
Sorry, just a quick question. When's it gonna be back? When's this sweeper gonna be done?
That's a great question.
I don't think we
I
have
will
an
get you that
answer.
answer.
We will get an answer.
I will get you that answer
good,
as soon as
because we need it
possible.
Right.
Yep, I will.
This is the time of year we
You let them know after.
I-
All right, any more discussion? Call for the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? I have an action item that, the finance committee, look at a possible policy when it pertains to, what do we call this? Sorry, no, hang on.
Policy for project contingencies,
Yeah, or change orders,
okay.
please and thank you. Okay, so now we're at the fun part, guys. Oh no, wait, no, we're not that fun yet. So we're at election committee. I move to postpone this conversation into our next regular board meeting. Do I have a second?
Second,
All in favor, or discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Were you in favor, Deborah, or?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
All right, now we're to the fun part, board candidates. All right, so, what we're gonna do right now is because we do have to review one of our candidates' information because it came in late, and we apologize about that, Tim. So I am going to,
Or to clarify, it did not come in late, we just got our hands on it late.
yes, thank you. So Ashley, what should I say right now for us to take a minute to like review his things?
If you want to do, you can do another.
Is there any way you could either read it out loud or?
Hang on 1 second, Deborah.
You could go into like a recess and then you can reconvene. So
Okay, recess.
yeah, you can
Okay.
recess.
So I move that, we go into a recess for 10 minutes. So
Can
Deborah,
somebody read it to me?
Deborah, did you get an email, or are you available to email? No.
I might, this time, all on my computer at home.
Okay. What did you say? Oh, thank you. I'm really bad at that. All in favor of going into recess?
Aye.
Okay.
Does she have access to email on her phone?
Do you have access to email on your phone? She says
She's on her
whatever
phone.
email we can email it to.
So
Can we-
You have to Yahoo.
She can put her phone
Yahoo.
on speaker and then still access all of the
Yes,
emails.
yes, yes.
So we're gonna send it to you, to your Yahoo. So is that DB,
Great.
or D
Okay.
Baker, or Deborah Baker,
Oh,
or?
it's Baker? No, it's Baker Martin 38 at Yahoo.
Hold on. So she wants it now sent to her personal?
Yeah. Baker Martin 38 at Yahoo.
Okay, got it.
Okay, so she's gonna send you everything, and if you could, do you ever print the dudes? His email.
Okay, everyone, hold on, just a second.
All right.
So this for her. Take a deep breath. Okay, Deborah, I just sent it.
Was that the bio or was that the application?
Okay, so you would like the initial email?
Yes, and send that to Deborah and then print it.
I did send it to Deborah.
Thank you. Did you send this
But
over
I-
too?
Yep.
Thank you.
But I haven't seen
So
the
you should have,
bio.
so you should have 2 emails.
Okay, I'm gonna have, yeah, I don't know how to refresh on my phone, I'm gonna have my daughter show me how.
Okay, yeah, take your time.
I wanna refresh Yahoo. Yeah, the Wi-Fi. My husband. Oh,
Thank you.
So yes, I got it.
Perfect, just take your time and let us know when you're ready.
Well, sorry, I have to load it. I mean, get open again. I got your email. I'm having trouble opening.
If you have a problem, I can read it out loud to you if you like.
Yeah, it's not that long.
Just give me an extra minute while my phone decides to open it. Come on. Okay, I got it open.
Awesome.
Now I'm ready.
She's reading it. I gotta put the bathroom break before we get restarted. Look at us making good time.
Mm-hmm.
Just have to get rid of half the agenda to do that. So I started cleaning out one of my file folders that I don't use anymore for my board stuff, and got about 3/4 of the way done, and then life got the best of me. So like, oh man, my Clearwood stuff was just. At one point, I had it so organized, and then something happened one day, and I think I had to look for something, and it's never been organized again.
Mine is, I've gotta get finance in different stacks and board stuff to begin with.
Yeah, that's it. And I have, 'cause I have like 4. I have board, finance, road and water, and then CPC.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I just, my goal is always to like handle any like, you know, point of contact stuff, like emails, like, you know, action items, like within like 48 hours. So then at least I can be like, it's in my email, and then I can find it there.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I was supposed to do. Or I'll just create draft emails if I can't like complete them, and like draft. Like, and I always have like, I probably have like 100 draft emails for you that I've never sent. So I'm like, oh, I'm gonna talk to her about these things. I'll come back when I have all my thoughts together. And
Maybe don't send them all at once.
yeah. Well, no, I mean we're talking like months
Right,
and
I'm
months
ready
of
whenever
it.
you are.
But 1 second, Deborah, because I'm gonna. Okay. No. Okay. I'm just gonna real quick about where I'm recessed.
You're on, whoever it was.
Sorry, it was just me. I didn't know if someone was in there. Thank you. Well, I put my sweater on and the seat kicks back on. And I put the sweater off. I do like sitting by the heater because when I sat there, freeze.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
was
a
just
little
one seat
cool
away
out
from
here.
being warm.
Yeah.
Should have drawn out of that seat a long time ago. How's the warm seat?
So many ways.
Well, you've got the hot seat now.
I know, well, and yeah, more ways than one too, because they literally put a heater on.
Yeah.
And then I know I got a camera, president got a heater, it's just
Do
a whole hot
apologize.
mess.
You may wanna let your candidates know if they can sit there when they do the presentation, so we can get them on.
Oh, okay, perfect, I like this idea,
That
thank you,
would
let
be
me clear
great.
up the spot then. So Deborah, are you ready?
I am.
Perfect, okay, so we will come out of recess, do I make my motion for that, or we just come out of recess?
Just come out of recess.
So we're coming out of recess, Okay, welcome back, everybody. Okay, so, we are going to ask our candidates to come up. I think we'll probably do it one at a time. So I guess we'll start, ladies first. LaDonna, would you like to come up? So, I guess, should we go through what she's provided us, or should we just have her, I'm sorry, LaDonna, to put you on the spot, we didn't really talk this through. Or should we just have LaDonna speak to us?
Yes, would you please
Okay.
introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm LaDonna Hackworth, and I've been in the community since 2002, going on 18 years. I've been involved in the community since I've been here. I've been on Member Relations Committee for probably 12 years. I was chairperson for about 4 to 5 years. It's either 4 or 5, which puts on all the events in the community for the community and the kids. And then I was on Lakes Committee, so we kept all the lakes clean. Like there was different groups that would get together, partners that would go and clean all of the lakes with rakes and stuff they had on Blue Lake. We kept that clean. Then that fell away. The committee just disbanded, I guess. And then I was on community property. And then we had a neighborhood watch here in our community for all 19 divisions. So we had captains for every division. And so I was the captain for Division 4. And then that fell away. And so I have seen so many boards, since I've been here. It's just been a revolving door with the boards. And I've always been wanting to be on the board of directors, but I was an authorized agent at that time. So I was limited on what I could do, for the community. But now that I'm an owner now, I feel that I can come to the board and just bring on my experience in the community, and I think it's a good board that we have now. I'm just.
You're in the hot seat now.
Yeah.
Right. Is that it?
Are there any
Well,
issues? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I feel that, like I said, I've seen so many things in here, but I feel that if you're going to be on the board of directors also, you're looked up to in this community and by everyone. And if you're on the board, I think that all of the board of directors should respect each other. There shouldn't be no dissension in our community. There shouldn't be no dissension amongst the members and always someone trying to start problems and trouble. I just think that's terrible, and all the drama that goes with it. And I think that you should be able to agree to disagree on things, and you shouldn't have personal agendas against each other, and members shouldn't have personal agendas against people because they don't like them, because their friends don't like them. I just think that's just childish, and I just think that should stop. And I see that has stopped since we have a good board now, and I want to continue that, and you shouldn't be mad at the other board member because they don't agree with you. Vote how you want to vote. Don't go by what, your other board member wants to do. You should have your own voice. So that's what I want to bring, is to be able to come on this board and do and better the community, because I've just seen so much dissension in this whole community since I've been here. and it needs to stop.
Thank you. Can we open questions, or did you have
Yeah.
anything more to say? Okay,
No.
so, Alexis, do you wanna start?
Well, you sort of answered my question. I think I was going to ask you, is there one special thing that you see that you'd like to affect change on?
Well, I just think bringing the community together as a whole, you know, and better the community. And
Do you have any ideas or strategies on how you'd go about that?
well, I think the board as a whole could get together and make decisions like that for the betterment of the community. You know, any decisions that anyone has, or I mean, our water is a big, you know, big problem in here. You know, I mean, I think that's something that we're working on, and I think we should do more cleanup around the lakes than what's being done. But it takes time.
Okay. Do you have any more questions, Alexa?
Not right now.
I'll go for it now.
Deborah, did you have any questions for LaDonna?
No, really.
My only question
Oh,
is,
hold on.
okay, yes.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
And then I have two businesses. So, you know, I am with Ice Chips Candy. And so I have that business. And then I have, with my rainbow chips and stuff, as a pop-up shop through the Ice Chips. And then I also have my Simply Events by LaDonna, which I put on at the Thurston County Fairgrounds 6 times a year, which is huge events. So I have my two businesses, but that's not going to keep me from giving my time, because I do a lot of my work from home here. So I can give a lot of my time here in the community, and I feel that if someone's going to be on the board of directors, it needs to be someone that is devoted, that can give their time 100%. You know, I feel you can't be going on trips. You can't be doing all of this stuff just anytime you want to. I mean, this needs to be your number one priority as our community if you're going to be on the board. I feel really strongly about that. And that's what I can do, because I have the time to do that.
That was gonna be my question, was availability. And I guess that I asked that specifically today because we have 3 directors missing, not in any fault necessarily of anyone, just, we have special meetings come up, and so, I mean, making a quorum is always important. Today was kind of like a fluke, but yeah, I don't have a problem with people having a life and having scheduled vacations and things like that, and we always have the ability to have people call in. I think it's just, if anything, just always being, you know, for any type of responsibility, just, you know, being polite about letting people know beforehand and making it all possible.
Yeah, instead of last minute.
Yeah.
And
That's
it's a
understandable.
high
That was
priority
gonna be my-
commitment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it is, and it is a commitment, because, because you're always like, yeah, I gotta wake up early on this Saturday. I dread every third Saturday of the month.
And you have to be able to get along with people, you know, in the community as well. You know, and I think that having 2 businesses, I can do that, you know. Working with the public. I work with the public every day. So that's very important.
Thank you. Did any of the directors have any more questions? All good? Did you have any last comments? Okay, then I think we're gonna bring up Tim now. Thank you,
Okay.
LaDonna.
Yeah.
Tim, if you'd like to come up. Hi, Tim, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
And then, what was your full name, I'm sorry?
Timothy Shute.
Shoot.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Tim.
Nice to meet you folks. First, I'd like to apologize to LaDonna. She probably had no idea that there was a second applicant, and it turned into a little bit of an election campaign.
That's okay.
I am currently in heavy construction. I drive truck. All the I-5 freeway that's getting built, the 200-foot long concrete girders that are being put into place. I'm part of the team that puts those into place. My wife and I, or soon-to-be wife, bought a house here in April of last year, over in the 17th Division, and we love it. We like the seclusion. We love shedding our work day as we drive out here into the country. She works at Madigan Hospital. She's a nurse there in the dialysis unit, and we have been together for going on 9 years. My interest in the board is just based on my past experiences and my past endeavors. I've been on a number of boards from creating Habitat for Humanity in Grace Harbor. We were part of the steering committee, and then later was part of the board that ran that. I was an elected official in the city of Aberdeen, which can be a plus or a minus. It depends on whether you like Aberdeen or not. But, that was a community of about 17,000 citizens, and I ran for 2 elections. I was appointed for a year and then ran 2 elections successfully and served my constituents well. I was used to getting phone calls in the evening while I was home. Hey, you need to fix this. Hey, you need to fix that. So I'm very familiar with that aspect of a board's position. I have a background in banking, even though I'm a trucker now. I spent over 20 years in the banking industry through the recession, through the collapse of the economy and the housing market. Worked on both sides of that industry, and in that position, I also had a lot of board appointments with Rotary, again, charitable organizations. I've worked with Concern for Animals. It's in Olympia. It's a small organization, so I'm very familiar with financial statements, very familiar with looking at contracts, very familiar with working with contractors and persons that would be, making bids or recommendations to the board. I'm not familiar with the community as LaDonna is, obviously, and I know there would be a learning curve for me. Every board operates differently. They have their own ways of doing things, and so you have to really kind of get involved and start look things, learning how the budgets are laid out, learning how the different committees bring information and recommendations to the board. So I just am interested in doing that. I've done it most of my life, and I think I have something to offer, even if it isn't at this time, if the board sees differently. The only concern that I would want to make you aware of is I will take vacations, but my job sometimes, for instance, I wasn't sure if I was going to make it here this morning because I started work last night at 6 o'clock and got off at 7 o'clock, and so I got home and got showered up so that I could come here and pretend to be vivacious. But so sometimes it's my work can have me away. The Saturdays meetings, it seems, is a more common thing of special committee meetings. I'm usually home in the evenings, so my work starts a lot of the times at 1 or 2 in the morning, and will end by that time in the afternoon. So, what I don't am not able to be here for, I am able to make call in like some of the board members I've seen here. In general, I don't have an axe to grind. I love my house. We love our space. We love the community that we've experienced. And I just think that I know that a lot of times groups like this are hard to assemble. It's hard to get people to volunteer and to stay involved. We moved here, we love it here, and we plan to stay. So I'm just looking to see if there's something I can do to help.
Great, thank you.
Great. Yeah.
So we'll start with questions. Alexa, do you want to?
Well, it may be unfair to ask this because you're so new, but
Sure.
do you have a vision for the community? Something you would like to see changed or improved?
There's so much about the community I don't understand. So I understand there's campgrounds and there's features like that. And what I see is, and I don't drive, I haven't driven every neighborhood. We've walked a lot of the neighborhoods. And just enhancing the quality of life that I experience out here is probably what I think the board's working on most diligently, and making sure that people that live here are proud of their ownership, feel part of a community, and that have a sense that the board is, developing their vision as time goes on and try and accomplish, you know, maintain this type of lifestyle. It's very peaceful. I really, really enjoy it, and but there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and that's where my board experience tells me that, you know, maybe there's something I can do to help. This doesn't happen on accident. There's a lot of wheels that are turning and people that are trying to get things done. There's a lot about the community that reminds me of when I was with the city of Aberdeen. There's obviously a well system and systems and water filtration. I heard issues about the drinking water and so forth with this new pump and whether we're going to need chlorine and stuff like that. And those are very common conversations we had as part of the city council and making decisions there. So, you know, and we had large budgets there. I'm not sure where the budget is here, but you know, we dealt with over $40 million in a budget with an annual budget that ran right around $2.3 to $2.5 million. So
You can't hear?
it's
Oh, sorry, I can barely, but my phone's breaking up. I'm seeing this is a fresh phone.
I'm gonna put you closer to him, I'm sorry.
I'll lean into you.
Okay, no, it's not that, it's the connection's starting to break up. It's not you, but but it's nice to have you lean in, do it.
So did that answer your
Yeah,
question? Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Any more questions, Alexa, from you?
Well, I just wondered, have you been to any of the finance committee meetings?
I haven't. I saw the newsletter came out, and we didn't get newsletters for a bit. And so we started getting them, I think, just right before the end of the year. And I saw that there was a plea for people to be involved in the committees and so on and so forth, and that there was a board position opening. And so I contacted, I can't remember if I contacted you first, yeah. And you gave me this is what you need to do. So I went in and I handled that with Rachel, and so here I am. So no, I haven't been to any of the other meetings or anything like that.
Okay. Sounds like you could be valuable in a lot of different capacities here.
I would hope. It's, you know, I mean, it's part of contributing to your community. And I lived in Aberdeen for 35 years, was married and raised my daughters there, and I was very proud to be a part of, you know, there's not a lot of credit given to groups like this or city councils these days. Governments or governing bodies aren't always thought of in the highest regard.
Because we want money.
Yeah, they want fees, they want this and that, and you know, I just always, whenever I encounter that, it's for me, it's also when I hear people talking about paying taxes, you know, I like some of the things we have, like roads and fire and police and stuff, and so I'm not going to have an issue. And that school's really nice down the street. So
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Are you okay, Deborah?
I wonder, in my phone, it won't, this charger didn't work. I mean, it's on the wrong side.
Deborah,
Yeah, my phone, but I'm on.
Deborah, can you hear us? Deborah? Oh, I think we just lost her.
Oh dear.
We did. All right, so
Oh,
just
dear.
1 second, Kim.
No,
Try to get her back on.
Yes, try to get her back on.
we had to get Verizon sent us a box. They must have a lot of them out here.
Yep, they do. The booster.
Yeah,
Deborah, is that you?
it's
That's
quite
okay.
remarkable. Yeah.
It makes all the difference.
I think what she said was the charger.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna put you on speaker,
Oh,
okay? Are you there, Deborah?
Now I am, yeah. It totally cut me off for some reason, but that's okay.
Oh dear, okay.
All right. And so, did you have any more questions, Alexa?
No.
Emily?
Nope, I think we answered all of my questions.
Deborah, did you have any questions?
Yeah, I do. So I wanted to talk, you know, I'm really impressed, but I wanted to talk about attendance a little bit. And you explained that you evidently work, you know, do you have any idea how many Saturdays it might interfere? We typically meet the board's regular board meeting is typically the third Saturday of the month. It may be moving to the fourth Saturday. We typically only have one board meeting a month on a Saturday. You said your evenings are pretty free, but do you have any idea, because you mentioned calling in by phone. I guess I'm trying to get is a kind of a sense of what percentage of time you would probably be able to attend board meetings, either by phone or in person. Because when you're at a board meeting by phone, I'm going to explain something, you have to, once you start, you have to stay on the entire time. You don't just get to come and go.
Right.
So what she means is if you call in to create a quorum,
Sure.
you can't, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was a rather frequent occurrence with the city council, and we had a process set up there similar to what you're doing. We would call in, and then we would attend the meeting in that format. As far as your question regarding Saturdays, I don't typically have any interruption on Saturdays. Last year I had I was asked to work one Saturday, and quite frankly, today I was almost going to be working before the board meeting started. So, but other than that, the frequency of that is not much. Special committee meetings and stuff like that. Occasionally, I get dispatched over east of the mountains, or I'll get dispatched into Oregon. Our company the company I work for specializes in what they call heavy supersized loads, and so there's any number of places we could be, but typically if I'm not able to make something like that, I'm still very well adversed to the fact that you still need to keep up with all the documentation, paperwork that's generated for every meeting. You need to follow up on all the board notes, talk with your fellow board members when opportunities. With city council, it's a little bit more difficult because there's issues about 2 councilmen or 3 council persons getting in communication with each other, and then it becoming a public meeting. And so I don't know how that affects this group, and I would certainly.
It does. It's very similar.
Yeah, so those kinds of things, but you do have to be committed and ready to talk when the topic comes up, and and have something informed to say.
So it sounds like, if I'm hearing you, probably 80 to 90% of the time, in one way or another, you would be at a board meeting. Committee meetings might be a little harder, but pretty much your attendance would be pretty good.
Yeah,
Is that a correct statement?
Yeah, that's right, and I think the only other thing that that the board would, and I'm sure the board has this allowance for other board members, is we do have personal lives, and I'm over Memorial Day I'll be in Hawaii, so.
And then we all take vacations.
There you go. So yeah, just the normal.
We don't have. Yeah, we just kind of be aware. The board's usually aware, so that we can make sure that everybody else is there. Yeah.
And any time I'm going to have, I find I'm going to have a conflict. As soon as I'm aware of it, I feel the responsibility to notify the board chair or the board secretary that, hey, can you let everybody know this is what I'm at? Is there something extra I need to do to help with whatever's going to be addressed in the coming agenda?
Okay, thank you.
Emily, I was going to ask her if she had. Deborah, did you have any more questions?
I think that's it.
Okay.
He answered all my questions while he was talking. So I had a bunch written down, but you got them all.
Well, thank you so much.
I did. I just thought of one, and I apologize, LaDonna. So correct me if I'm wrong. Either candidate would only sit until November, and then would have to rerun.
Yes,
correct?
that is correct.
Okay. If you were appointed, would you rerun in November?
First off, I don't know what rerun means other than.
So the way our bylaws that we just passed at this last special election, any board candidate appointed, so not at the annual membership meeting, not voted on by the membership, would only sit until the next annual membership meeting, and at that time they would either choose if they wanted to run for the election, or thanks guys, this was a pleasure, and not run.
And then they're eligible to serve 2 terms.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so it's very much how I ended up on the city council, and I ran for 2 subsequent terms. So yeah, no, I would have, unless you guys did something really bad to scare me.
Maybe we wouldn't. Just don't look at Facebook.
Yeah. But I mean,
Well, to be candid, I don't have a Facebook page.
That's okay.
That's good.
Yeah, you're probably well off.
But anyhow, no, it would not be. Especially going through the process of getting familiar with how things flow and everything, you just kind of get naturally caught up in these things. I mean, and there was a point in my life where I had a real struggle saying no. I was on 5 or 6 different boards, and I was doing community theater and choir, and I finally said I got to stop. And now, my partner and I, we love our home. We're here. I don't have anything other than my work. And she has hers, and we have each other, and so I do have time to commit to something like this, and so I would anticipate that if there was a process to renew, I would probably be too involved to feel like I'm just gonna walk away from it, but unless you did something scary.
Yeah, well, yeah. No,
Okay.
we can't hold that against you anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I think you answered all my questions, and mine was just gonna be what Deborah had asked about availability, and, yeah, just the same thing I said with Ladonna, just giving us adequate, notice if you can't attend, and then, always conference in, and then, you're not required to be on any committees. We do ask, board members to possibly be liaisons, but now the positions are full, but some board members do have multiple
Sure,
liaison
sure.
positions. It sounds like you're available in the evenings, and then we do hold, it seems like 1 or 2 special meetings every month lately, but those.
That will slow down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's because we've been going through proposals, and there's just, we're basically rebuilding Clearwood right now, so we've been pretty busy, but I mean, it's not too crazy, especially if you don't overcommit on committees like I have.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the city council is very
I've
much like
admitted it
that,
now.
so.
You
Certain-
don't
certain
have to
people-
overcommit.
That's true.
Certain people are gonna come after me now. No, but thank you. Did anyone have any follow-up questions?
No, but I
No.
would, because I
Yes.
missed that question, I would.
I was gonna bring her back up.
For Ladonna,
Thank you
yes.
so much.
Thank you so
Tim.
much for your
Yeah.
consideration.
So Ladonna, yeah,
Yes.
so, okay. And so, you're good? Okay. So, so now we're gonna have board discussion and candidate scene. So before we do that, I wanna ask my directors that are in attendance, so do we ask them to leave the office and then we have a discussion? And then would we like to vote by secret ballot? And then we'll have, I was gonna ask Ashley and Jennifer if they could count the secret ballot and maybe just take Deborah's vote in the office. And
Sure.
is everyone comfortable with that scenario?
Yeah, we've done that before, that works.
Okay. Okay, so perfect. So, LaDonna and Tim, if you guys would exit the room for a moment, and we won't leave you guys out there for too long, I promise. And then we will, thank you so much.
Do you want this to maintain on live stream while you discuss options?
I mean, we've
think
always,
so.
have we done this in closed session? Because I feel like we've done it both ways.
I think
in
we
my-
did, I think we did it the last couple of times.
The difference is, I think to Ashley's point, is we've never done it closed session because that's not closed session business.
Yeah.
The meetings have never been recorded and live streamed. So,
But it's the same as attending in person, so I guess.
And you would
is
have the conversation
guess-
about your
yeah.
potential board member in open forum?
We've always have.
Oh, no, and then that's fine. That was
Yeah.
just my question, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
entirely up to you.
So-
This
yeah,
will
we've
just be
never
on.
asked members, like,
Uh-huh.
the members that are, we've never asked them to physically leave the room.
Oh,
We have,
okay.
Yeah.
No,
I don't
that's,
know,
okay.
Yeah.
but I
So,
would be
yeah.
curious to
Those
know
online
your
are not being asked to leave the
knowledge
room
or
either.
recommendation on that.
Generally speaking, you would probably go into a closed
Well,
session.
I know what point you're making, it's the fact that they can go back and look at it, and the whole point was that they
Yes.
would never know the conversation.
Well, that's why I didn't know if we,
Yeah.
if we really meant
I-
to use
New
it
ground. This is new
Right.
ground.
because it's right there.
So I would recommend that if you're gonna have this conversation, you actually should do it in a closed session.
But it's interesting because it's not closed session.
It's not legal, yeah.
That's, yeah,
So-
from my understanding, executive session is very detailed and
Jennifer,
I
do you have
don't
any comments
recall
to make
that.
on them having
Interesting.
this
Board-
conversation?
board
It's
candidates
an executive
discussion.
Nothing in the RCW.
Yeah.
That allows for that.
Yeah,
What,
I mean,
Deb?
it could be
There is
considered
nothing in the
a
RCW that
personnel
allows for that.
Well, that's kind of what I was
I
thinking,
just
that it would
reviewed that
be,
Yeah, it's
But
very
they're-
specific and
It
into
is.
what you
They're
can
talking
discuss
about
and
what
a
you
Exactly.
senior
Well,
board
session.
candidate's not one of them.
And
Jennifer's
Whether or not
point
you
is
can-
it could be
Exactly.
considered a
You moved that
personnel
right, yeah.
matter.
Mhm.
Ah, she's right.
That's,
And I would
So
think
it's-
that it
That's
could
right.
be.
Up for interpretation.
I think it is up for interpretation, and I feel
personnel.
like the whole point of asking about is so we, we are sensitive to them, and so we can't be sensitive to them if they can still see it. So I guess,
And
I guess
Melinda,
I'll make
to
a
add to
motion
your
and you
point,
got-
sorry
I will
to butt
make
in
a-
there, but also when we do an appeal, our appeal panel process, when it actually gets to the board, we ask the person appealing to leave the room while we debate it.
Yes, but we still discuss it in front of,
It's in the policy.
but we still discuss it with other members and out in the open.
I'm
It's just the one appealing that we ask to leave the room. We don't close the doors. We don't make an executive session, unless it's legal, an executive session out of it. If you read the new policy, you'll see in there.
What is a personnel manager and that?
I'm
the
gonna make a
personnel
motion. Hey, it's okay, Jeff. I'm gonna make a motion,
It
and
is
you
covered
guys,
by
you
the
guys can vote
RCW.
however you guys feel comfortable. I'm gonna take the idea that we can, it's up for interpretation, and I think it's a sensitive subject, so I make a motion that we go into executive session to discuss any necessary conversation about our member candidates. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'm gonna call, any discussion I'm gonna call for the question, all in favor.
Aye.
Deborah?
No,
Okay,
sorry,
no, it's okay.
I don't think it fits executive session, it's me.
So
And
I'll,
it's okay,
here's
you
my
know, I'll
motion.
still unite,
Yep.
be together, but I just don't
No,
think it's.
and that's perfectly, yeah, you're more than acceptable to vote the way you want to. So everyone voted, no abstains, okay. So motion, passes. So we will go into closed session. So if everyone would leave the room, please.
Is there a
possibility
possibility we go over tomorrow?
How about across to the
Okay.
coffee
So
shop?
Jennifer and Ashley, if you guys would as well exit the room, that would be appreciated. And we will not be long, I promise.
I'm gonna make sure though that this is.
Oh,
Turned off.
Turned off, yes, thank you.
So 5 minutes, I promise, guys.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to open up my can of worms.
No,
but
it's
just
good.
something that's-
It was-
Thank you.
Generally,
Well,
it's
that's-
I think it's
practice.
good.
I still can see Deborah's argument. We aren't personnel. We're not personnel.
No,
So,
but that's okay, we'll
but
get,
I
we
can,
won't debate that.
and it's
tomorrow.
fine.
We'll get
I
on to
voted
our
for it,
conversation.
but I can
The
see the
video goes
argument.
down.
I just say,
The
The
video's not,
video goes down.
the video's not
It's
up.
down.
I know,
It's down.
it is,
It's
yes,
down, yes.
thank you.
Calm down.
The video goes down.
I'm just
The-
making sure that it's.
So I can see the argument, and that's why
Oh,
I
no,
said,
just stop.
it's, to me, it's interpretation. I
It
don't
is.
consider volunteers personnel
I don't-
at all. We don't do that for ACC staff. Yes, absolutely not appropriate, but.
This is still.
We'll
and it's not
pioneer
legal
this and we'll
either.
see what
And
kind of
here's the
pushback
challenge,
we
is
get.
boards have been sued for having inappropriate executive sessions,
Yeah,
so
it would be,
I
I'd be
don't know.
very curious to.
Just know that, I
Let's,
mean,
we're gonna.
just be
The
aware.
Yeah.
attorney
Yeah.
tells me
Crumble.
that it's executive session, I'll say,
Okay, we'll work it that way.
Take the camera out.
Well, it's.
It's still running?
Yeah, it's still going.
Oh my gosh, it's still going. Kill it.
And so, if you would unlock the office so they can take Deborah's phone call in the other room. Thank
So
you
we're
everyone for
not-
stepping outside. I'm sorry if it was longer. I know I've been out there before and it's never any
It's
fun.
never
Yeah.
as short as we hoped.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. I'm gonna miss our annual election being at Rifle Beach. I will.
Yeah.
I'm gonna miss that. Like that makes me sad. It
We
was
need
nice.
to have another.
Do you,
we need-
want me to go take the call now?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
And here, do you
Great.
want?
She's supposed to call back in, but.
So she did. And so, how do I just put it on hold? Perfect. Okay.
Great.
Deborah, can you hear me? Nope. Okay. Just making sure.
Okay.
And then, so we're gonna call for the question. So, do I have to make a motion? Okay. Yes. Oh, she's waiting.
Hold on,
We're
she's
not-
still
we're not
trying to get
actually in
back
session.
online. She had to kill the thing to put us offline.
I believe you can make a
Okay,
motion to vote by.
Anonymous.
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 Ballot.
I just, my mouth wants to say unanimous. Anonymous. Doesn't have to be unanimous. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. Okay, no, you keep that.
Yep, I'll keep that.
All right? Oh.
Sure, yeah.
We're just waiting on that.
Yep, just waiting on me.
So I can take her back?
Yep.
Deborah, are you there? Deborah, are you there?
I am.
Okay, perfect.
All
So we're
right.
just waiting for Ashley. She has to get us back online with the streaming, and then I'll make a motion and we'll
Okay,
continue.
but I'll explain something, in that, this agreement is only 4 of us today, so if we have a tie vote, I'm guessing, we can ask Ashley to be sure, but we could move to the next board meeting when we have more directors.
Of course.
Yeah, okay.
So you guys understand that? Because we have an even amount of directors. If there were to be a tie, we'd have to push the vote to the next meeting when we have more directors.
This does not want to come back up. That's great. I'm so sorry. It's a format that I'm not used to.
No, you're
so
good.
I apologize.
No, you're fine. I feel bad because I'm such a joker that I just want to say like jokes all the time.
That's good, it's a good
Sure.
thing.
The rest of the meeting and post it
I can.
later.
I can, but I think I fixed it.
Oh, okay, great.
So, yeah. I did.
Yeah.
All right,
I fixed
so we're
it.
back online?
Yes.
So are we good to go?
You are good to
Okay,
go.
So welcome back, everyone. We're out of executive session. So I am going to make a motion to vote for our open board seat. that sound okay? Yeah, okay, I have a second?
Second.
Okay, so we are gonna, oh, sorry, I made the motion incorrectly, didn't I? I was supposed to say,
By anonymous.
anonymous. We're gonna vote by anonymous, ballot for our candidate seat, or board seat. Okay, so, you still, you good there?
Mhm.
So everyone do that. And then we're gonna give them to, and Ashley and Jennifer will, be the two ayes, and then so when you come back, just say who, unless there's a tie, just who won. Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
And I just want to say to both of you that I think you're outstanding candidates.
Yes.
And you have different, I mean, there's the relationship piece and there's the technical piece, and they're both really valuable to us.
Sure. Well,
Hi.
I don't know if I'm in the right office. I just need to borrow a phone, if that's okay. Mine, I have no signal out here.
Yes.
Next, right next door?
Yeah, the store can let you use the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, across.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, and, yeah, I hope you'll both consider being on committees as well.
either way, because we need a lot of people on committees,
We do.
especially violations in ACC. Just FYI.
And if we create a new elections committee.
Yes, we're gonna do that.
Okay,
So,
your newly appointed director is Tim Shute.
congratulations, Tim Shute.
Congratulations,
Um,
Tim.
So.
Would you like to come join us
Yeah, I
at
was
the
gonna say, I
table?
don't know how to,
Mm-hmm.
yes, come sit.
Yep.
And then, thank you, Tim. And so, yeah, to go, so we're in a motion. I don't know where to go from now when it comes to.
Is it time to adjourn the meeting? Well, we
No,
need to,
we're not.
try to get some training up for him.
Yeah, we haven't adjourned, but so the motion over? Like we motioned to vote, and we voted, and so now we're just.
You document that, and now you move on to the next agenda item, which I believe is an executive session, am I correct?
Yes, but I'd like
Yes.
to just,
Member open forum.
but I like to do exactly what Alexis said, that yes, you're on the board, but we would also like you to consider being on committees, but don't overwhelm yourself. And LaDonna, we really would like you on a committee. So, I
Yes.
mean, we really want to make it
Really,
adamant that.
really want you on committees.
I'm not gonna commit to nothing.
But no, but please consider it, because when we have people that come and say they wanna be a part of the board, we would like everyone to be
Yes.
part of it.
And
everybody.
run for the board in
In
November.
November.
I'll think
Yes,
about that.
yes.
It's a possibility.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, now we're in member open forum, so, members. Doug?
Should I come up there to sit down and be videoed, or do you?
I can turn it. I'll turn it for you.
I have a plethora of items, but I'm gonna read them and I'll submit them to Emily, so that you don't have to go, listen to me babble. Number one that I have here is the compliance issues. There was a memo that was promised last July, never received, and that was supposed to be put out to the membership to tell them what in fact was being looked at and what the possible consequences would be. The other thing the reason that brings up, down by Longmire, there's two homes. One home has 10 to 12 trucks on it, and it looks just horrible, even though the R&Rs don't really, and the covenants don't really indicate anything regarding that. They should be changed. There's another home that has a bunch of stuff on the property and a couple of cars, and it's a mess. And when I go by it, it just really bothers me, because I don't keep my home like that, and I'm paying for other people to keep their homes like that. Garbage cans are still out. And then the second thing I wanted to mention is that we need owner sign-in for website to see everything. We need to delimit that for non-members. And in light of that, that would give us the ability to have the current drop-down finance statements, which we currently have not seen since last October. We would be able to see maintenance reports, monthly online or quarterly online maintenance reports, that would tell us what the maintenance department is doing, because sometimes they don't get the credit for what they're doing. The newsletters that are emailed to us, oftentimes I like to go back and look at them. I do keep emails, but sometimes they get lost. But it would be nice to have those newsletters online. But that again would be on the member website portion, delimited to that. The last thing on the website would be just regarding the resolutions. They are not currently all online, and they need to be put all online. The next item that I have a concern about is that I believe that Eric and committee chairs should be at least invited to these board meetings. Because they are so definitely involved in so much that goes on. And if they're not here, they don't see essentially what's going on. 8G on your agenda. My concern there and my wife's concern is that if there is ever any consideration in removing amenities, which are listed there at the 3, that I believe has to have a vote from the membership, because taking amenities away is something that we do not want, simply because we moved here because of the amenities. The other item before the last item is this, and that is that guest access to the Wi-Fi in the conference room would be nice, because we can access then on the website the CCNRs and other things while being discussed up front by the board. I believe that the board should have a per diem for board directors of $150 per month, which equals to $12,600 per year. That would include the L&I, Medicare, Social Security, and IRS that comes out of it. And I believe the reason that would be something valuable is that it gives a responsibility to the board that they can be held to by the mere fact that they are now being given a per diem. I get a per diem as a commissioner for Pierce County Commissioner that I am elected to occupy. The last item here is a point of order. The agenda. I really love what you've changed the agenda to, because it never used to be this way. So thank you for that. And Melinda, I believe you're doing a great job, and I appreciate that. The agenda items need to be kept online. New business items need to go to old business. They need to stay in old business until you complete them. Otherwise, they get lost. Deborah brought up the fact that she thought maybe we should remember something. Anything that is brought up by the board should be put into new business during the board meeting and then kept in old business until such time as they're completed. There is no other way to cause the board to get things done. And I know that from having done commissioner work for 7 years. And so those are the items that I have, and Emily, I will send those to you for record.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, we can respond to those. He's brought up some good points and some that need a little explanation and clarification. In writing is probably the easiest and most efficient way to get back to him on that.
I think that would be, and I know that you emailed recently, and has Mitch responded to that, because he had a draft.
Mitch responded in the 48 hours, but I also got answers today, which really will help me.
That's what I thought. Okay, because I thought that's what I saw in my email.
That's why I came.
Because he had a draft email that went to a few of us, and we reviewed it, and so.
I
think a lot of your questions will be answered, but there yet some new follow-up ones, and so yeah, no, we will answer those for you, and then we can
Okay,
even
well,
maybe
it's more just bringing them up to the board
Yeah.
for consideration. It's not just wanting an answer. I'm only one person.
Yeah.
I just think
No.
there's some things that need to be.
The one thing I do want to clarify is that, yes, the board completely understands that we, as a board, cannot remove amenities, and we understand that we'd have to bring a resolution to the membership for a vote, and so don't ever worry about that.
Okay. Compliance is a big deal too, because I had a friend say to me the other day, "You live behind a gate?" And I said, "Yes." "Well, it looks like a gated ghetto."
I am not going to comment on that, but I will comment on that. Finance right now is working on a compliance policy and our letters, and we do have a compliance person that drives around. So she only drives around for so many hours a month, so she's not going to be able to find everything. And then all members are available to write out their own violation and turn it in.
I understand that too, and I've done that, but
Can
I've not
I
received
answer
response
that,
to
Madam
my.
Chair, about the violations?
Violations have not received any response. In fact, I have record of those violations I put in and never received a response. There was never any change made, so.
So can I respond?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
Enough. I've said enough.
I can tell he's
Deborah's
talking, but I
gonna
can't tell
respond.
when he's done, so forgive me, Doug, if I talk over you. I can't quite tell.
I know,
It's kind of faint, but regarding the garbage cans, board, you can look at your minutes and see how many garbage cans we've been writing lately. Regarding the cars, the only time we can enforce the car problem if they're parked on the road or on the roadway itself, and or on the shoulder too long.
Yes, I know that,
and/or
Deborah.
if it's
Deborah, I know that,
disabled,
but
then we
our
have
hours
to
can be
tell that
changed.
it's disabled. Otherwise, we have nothing in our rules to enforce the number of cars that a member has on their own lot. So it really is a problem, and I agree, Doug, sometimes it does limit the parking lot. But until we get rules to change that, our hands are tied. But we do continue to really try hard to stay up on I'm talking from a violations committee person for many years now. We do really try to stay up on those garbage cans. In fact, I was just thinking this morning, I saw more out, and we just wrote up a bunch of them, that maybe we do need to get another community website and or the gate saying they have to be hidden from street view. We're going through a cultural change in Clearwood regarding that. They kind of got to do that for so many years. There was a lot of miscommunication about people were told they could, and they really couldn't leave them out there like that. So we're kind of, it takes time to get that, culture change more effective. But I think the more we communicate it, we consistent with writing up those garbage cans, hopefully eventually we'll get there.
Okay, so,
Oh, can I please ask?
yes.
Because Cookie called me this morning and I was very shocked that the assumption was that the removal of an amenity was being considered. Where did you get
No, I don't know,
that?
that's one thing I was gonna talk about.
Well, I know, but Doug brought it up too, and the reason I ask is because when I was asked to add that to the agenda, no information was given to me as to why any of the maintenance requests were being added, with the exception of the sweeper. Mitch never responded to that, so I'm just curious where the impression that that was being considered came from.
Well, because it was from a comment for a cost estimate to repair, the boards near the sea. Are you familiar with that amphitheater?
So you are privy to information that maybe our directors don't know. So where did
That
you?
is correct.
So she's asking you, where did you get that information?
Okay. When it was probably about 3 months ago, I had Mitch said I go meet with Eric. And when I was to put a tracker together for each park. Okay, so that was on this Madrone because a board was broken. So it was made that would cost about $1,000 and it should be taken out. It was I don't want to misquote him. So that made me think, my goodness, are we going back already to the old habit of, well, if something needs to be repaired, we'll just tear it out or throw it into reserve fund.
I'd like to comment, if that's okay to this. So, I think this speaks to two things. One, a chain of command. It's the reason why we have liaisons and committees. So the committee has a discussion, the liaison brings it to the manager, and the manager brings it to whatever employee necessary, and vice versa. So the maintenance manager would discuss with the manager, maybe the manager will bring a request to the board through the liaison brings the request to the committee for discussion or a recommendation. So what happened there was just a dialogue between two people where he said this could be a thing that could happen. But just because he says that, it still has to go through all the steps. So there was never a need to feel like the maintenance was just going to be given the go to remove it, or the board was just going to give the go to remove it, because the board does understand we cannot, only the membership can. So, yes.
But in regard to that, when you see all this stuff, my biggest thing, I believe that CPC should be part of this. Why couldn't we go out and look at it too? Because we're tracking all this stuff. That's where mostly my concern is.
Because we have a reserve schedule for large amenities,
Yes.
and as well and the maintenance also has their tracker. So I believe why I don't think that CPC can't be. CPC is great. What you've created on CPC is great, where you've given people direction to review and look at beaches, parks, and trails is great, because when you guys come across something that maybe maintenance hasn't yet, that's great, and then it can be brought to our attention. But I don't think you guys need to go. You as a committee should not look at an amenity and decide yourself as a committee if it needs work or not. That would have to go into the hands of, like, for instance, like the bridges and ducts, in the hand of an engineer to tell us what we should do with it. You can tell us that things are wiggly, and then the maintenance will go look at it, like the step at Longmire. We knew that one of the steps needed to be replaced, But what ended up happening was the whole staircase needed to actually be,
Yeah, they only did 3 boards.
yeah, but so there was more to it than we thought, which is good. We brought light to it, and the larger situation was fixed because of it. So I think you guys should continue doing what you are doing and bringing those things to attention. So if they haven't already been looked at by maintenance.
I just wanna
Or
make
something-
sure that it doesn't get over exaggerated, just be taken out, that's all I was just trying to say.
So can I
Yes.
ask, because your email was never actually responded to when those items were added. So since we've tabled some of them for the next regular meeting, can you please,
Clarify what we're talking about?
well, I feel like if there's items that need to be discussed, while they may be a discussion topic, you need to provide why we're adding these to the agenda and what that even entails, because me just
No.
adding random items is
No,
not very
you're
efficient.
correct, and I had requested Mitch to give me some talking points that I was gonna share, and then they never came, and then we ended up having a discussion where he told me them, and then, yes, I dropped the ball and did not continue to share that information, so that is my bad, and I apologize about that.
Well, yeah, I feel like it would just
But-
be helpful though, if
so,
he's
but-
operations and it's coming from maintenance, that he just send an email that literally says, bam, 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 this is what they are,
Yes.
and then it's not fourth person.
No, I understand,
That's
but
a good way of putting it, that's what, what alarmed me is like, what's now, why did
it's
that
because
happen?
exactly for what, some of the boards are broken, so it's the idea of, are we going to fix it? Another option is to remove it, but that was, that's a discussion to have.
Can I bring up another one?
Mhm.
When you're talking about the bridges, there is still another bridge that's not even on the reserve that you might wanna look at. It's, crosses the stream. So when you get to Blue Lake, that at the end, there's that stream, well.
Yeah, it's included,
There's a bridge there that's not.
yes.
Yeah, it should be part of the 6, because there's
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4,
No.
5,
No, it's
Yeah.
not on there. It's.
on the reserve study?
Yeah, I did not see it, but the permit, we don't have a permit for that bridge.
Oh,
And then if you put back Otter, if the coast if
So
the dock
again,
or the bridge, whatever you wanna call it, you need to get a permit for that. 'Cause
Well, it's an
not-
amendment to the
It
existing
is not, it is.
Yeah,
not
exactly, it
permitted.
has to be permitted.
So those two still.
I think it might be called the inlet bridge.
That would be true.
It's, where your,
We're talking about Otter now or Blue Lake?
No, we're talking
Blue
about
Lake.
the end of Blue
Okay.
Lake,
I know what bridge you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's the little one where the creek comes
goes
in.
over the stream.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at bridges, you did not mention that one bridge, so. you
And
may
we
want
did get
to
the
add-
spillway bridges, right? We had 2 of those.
The motion said all bridges on Blue Lake. So
There we go.
But it
That
is
covers
not
it.
on Blue Lake, it's further,
That's
further
part
up.
of Blue Lake. So it
Well,
will
I
be,
didn't put that on
It's
there.
part of Blue Lake.
I think,
yeah.
we'll
Then
make,
I need
we'll
to-
make sure that
It's
it
the
happens.
inlet
though.
bridge.
Yeah, we'll make sure it happens. We
Then
said
I
all,
need to go back to the permit to get one for that, because it is not.
okay.
Madam Chairman, I want to suggest that when we have that training and prioritization on the reserve study, that CPC be invited.
Okay. So for what meeting?
The
The
meeting,
one where we have the actual training on the reserves and the prioritization. The reason
Capital
to be
raising.
there is because they'll get they'll hear about, they have awareness of amenities that we don't. I know that, I'm saying, because just like she about that bridge, she wants to make sure it's on the reserve study. They'll help us not miss things.
Okay. We'll talk to Mitch about it, because
Talk to
that
Mitch
will
about it, yeah.
come up with space and where we move the meeting to.
That's true, yeah, but if they just sit in the audience, it would be helpful.
Yeah.
For them and us.
Okay, so Cookie, are your questions finished?
Well, yeah, I'm just still trying to figure that one out, because you're counting 6 bridges, but there's 7 bridges then on
The
Blue Lake.
motion said all, so
Yeah, but
the
I'm
number
just-
won't matter. So, yeah.
Yeah, Cookie's asked me, from my contractor background, to look at all of the amenities that we've got and compare them to what comes about after the fact from maintenance. And as an example, the amphitheater benches that apparently there was some maintenance suggestion that they should all be removed. Well, what had happened is in the original construction, they did not put just a small piece, about an 8-inch piece of 2x4, 2x6, 2x8, I don't care what, a piece of scrap wood basically, to put that one board back up. and one needs a whole length of board, 2x6 if I remember. That doesn't cost $1,000. I don't know where maintenance comes up with some of these numbers, but I'm using that as one example.
So we, as the board, have not seen numbers. So everything you guys know, I can't even say to what you're saying. So I feel like you guys have information that possibly incorrect, or it was just a conversation of possibilities. So no decision has been made at all. Like, the board hasn't even had the discussion yet. So, but we will do our due diligence in the discussion for the amphitheater seating,
Okay.
on prices, on how on fixing it, rebuilding it, bringing it to new, however that looks.
Well, somehow, the information that the board is getting from the committee that's going through the liaison is not getting accurately communicated to the board.
About the amphitheater?
About any of this, we have the same thing with the Longmire tennis court that's been shut for how long? Because it was,
So,
for years it's been shut because somebody complained that it was unsafe. There's nothing unsafe about it.
so if I remember correctly about the Longmire, we did have the insurance person come out and they declared that it was unsafe, correct?
Yeah, we
And that
did.
was just recently. So it is
Yes,
closed for a
very.
reason. And I'm sorry if you feel like the communication's not working, but I feel like we did have this conversation at CPC where the information was brought back that that's exactly what happened. Because I am the liaison for CPC, and I'm not saying I do a perfect job, but I think I do relay as much information as I'm supposed to. And getting information back is not always easy because I am a middleman, so I give CPC's information to another person, and I have to, either wait or follow up. So I think I'm happy with Clearwater's progress right now. I feel like CPC has done an amazing job of combing Clearwood, and we've gotten a lot done. We had a new maintenance man come on, and we had like a honey to-do list, and they've done a really good job. We've seen shingles on bathrooms, so much is getting done. So I feel like we're unhappy with the way some amenities have been kept up in the past, but I think we're doing a capital planning training where we're going to see us look at how to keep a schedule and how to properly fund those projects so we can keep our amenities to a standard we all can agree that we enjoy.
Can I add a comment to that, Melinda?
Yes.
And especially now that we have this great management team that we're headed in the right direction.
Yes, I agree. Doug?
Okay, I'm really troubled because of my transparency to my constituents regarding what happens in our meetings and having the information available. Talk is cheap. And Melinda, I appreciate all that you're saying right now. I really do. But I'm not a Facebook user. I don't know what's put on Facebook. I am a website user. And when I go into the website, and speaking of CPC, I go down into CPC and I see just minutes there. I don't see necessarily anything relating to what's been done. I'm not talking just about CPC, but maintenance. I don't see anything about maintenance. I don't know what they've done. You're saying things are great. Well, I'm a person out here that wants to be familiar with the state of the community, and the only means I have is either to come here or see it on the website. And all of what you're saying and all of what you're doing, you ought to put into a president's report that is quarterly at least given, if not monthly, that throws out to the community what's been being done and what is going to be done and the state of the community. I know when in a previous administration that was done. That was one of the really good things that was done.
He's right.
And
At least quarterly.
I take that as an immense importance to my ability to feel good. Right now, I don't feel good. And the reason is because there's not enough experience with a good board like this. We have not had a good board in 12 boards. So, don't need to respond. I'm not asking for a response. Just listen to me.
Okay.
That's all I want.
And I've listened, and I'm going to respond, and I hope that doesn't offend
It won't offend me.
No, I hear exactly what you're saying. I know what's happened, and I do feel good. So what you're saying is the maintenance report, I think, is a good idea, and we have had it in the past, and I know that there are things that have dropped off. And this board in particular, we've had to catch a lot of falling balls, and one of them was the budget. And so while we were dealing with that very large one, dropped ball, we can now focus on these smaller balls, and we can only focus on these two and when members bring them up to our attention. So
Yes, but you have the information, Belinda, and you have the ability to speak it. You have the ability
No.
to present it.
And I hear you.
And
So
you,
we
as
will
the
fix
president of
that.
the board right now, I think should be responsible for providing that information. Mitch is not. He is not doing his monthly letter. And so consequently, it falls to you. So I'm just asking. I'm not saying you should. I'm just asking because I do keep up with the state of the community. And I love the community. I love where I live, but I stay there because it's the only place that I can really look at and enjoy. And so.
No, we got your email, and one of them
Okay,
stated
all right,
the
enough,
request. So yeah.
enough. I'm
Okay.
sorry. It's
No,
just-
you're good. Are there any more member questions? Okay.
Thank you, though.
Thank you. All right, so we do have an executive session. So I guess that's where we'll go. So we're gonna.
There's no need for a vote afterwards.
Adjourn executive session. Motion.
Okay,
I'm
so
sorry.
I'm gonna shut this
Okay.
down because
Thank
there's no
you
reason
for
to vote
coming.
afterwards,
Well,
but
thank
and
you.
neither your
Thank you.
minutes will reflect that the meeting ended right away, but I'm just gonna take this offline.
Perfect. Thank you.